Hey Christian, how's it going?
Hey, Ebon.
Wow, that
How are
was
you, man?
good. That was quick.
Yeah, I just saw you right now, man. I'm in the middle of doing something, but I'll be here, man.
Okay, sounds good.
So what did you guys talk about yesterday, last night? I caught a little bit of it at the beginning.
Was it last night? That was movie night. TV shows or like 80s nostalgia stuff. A bunch of like stuff that were like watched as kids growing up. So it's like cartoons and things like that. I think that was last night. Things start getting blurry.
What do you mean blurry? Like the video quality or your memory? What do you mean?
My memory of which night we're talking about what.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think that's why it's got me thinking about. Um, no, I can't sing you a song, Trox. Sorry. Um, so what I'm gonna thinking about doing is once a week, at least we'll start it out. Um, is we'll do like a movie night.
hmm
Now YouTube has it so even if it's private, unlisted video, you can't live stream something that has copyright because you'll get a strike
hmm
once it ends, I believe, or if they catch it during your live stream. But what I
hmm
was thinking of is to get like a Vimeo account because if you have at least a pro or it's $7 a month. Hey Snark, a
Hey, Snort.
$7 a month account, you can stream, live stream, private.
hmm
We can share the URL, but they don't seem to have things like a strike. Um, I don't know. We'll see. And if it does, then it's just a waste of $7.
Have
Hi
you
Shirley.
considered have you considered maybe VidMe?
Um, I think they do this. They might have that same problem with the copyright. So
They
basically,
might.
what I'd be doing is I just streaming a movie and like free, right? and
Yes.
and except on this screen, like people will know about it because I'll just be live on YouTube, and then on the screen it'll say movie night. Go. You can chat. You don't have to chat if you don't want to. But it allows people. It'll allow people to do chat while we're watching the movie. So like if it's just like a certain part, or people just want to talk because they've seen the movie, they could just talk. Or like a certain moment, they go, "Oh, this is I don't like this part" or whatever. I don't know.
Like a live play-by-play commentary sort of
Yeah,
thing.
you won't see it on the screen. You just see the movie,
hmm
but yeah, commentary stuff. Uh, because some people just don't have time to go out and see certain movies, and maybe certain movies or even documentaries might be kind of cool to watch together because we're all kind of in the same political spectrum in a way.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking about. Oh my God, my mind just went to like, I don't know if this happens by you, but like, there's always these old Korean or Chinese ladies that walk into stores and they try to sell you bootleg DVDs. My mind just. I'm sorry, bro.
No, that's all right.
Yeah. Well, if we're gonna do that, if I could make one suggestion as one movie we could start off with, 1984.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
So.
Neither have I actually, but I've heard great things about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good one. Well, we could do that one.
Hell yeah.
Oh yes, you did, Jordan. You missed me singing. I still sang a buttload of songs. You're just gonna have to rewind and watch it.
Oh wow, you sang some songs, Ebon?
No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Someone just Trox was saying for me to just sing. Oh shoot, I forgot about this. All right, good. My voice might have been echoey.
No, you were fine. At least from what I was hearing. Feature films.
Whoop. What did I just do here? Oh, okay. Oops. Oh, copyright-free movies? Huh. That's a good list. But we're gonna try out the copyrighted movie. Is where we don't have permission to view. We'll try that first. Always breaking. Well, I don't know. Is it breaking the law? We'll see. Maybe hopefully I don't go to prison.
That's a good question. I could ask my father.
Yeah.
My father was a cop, so he would probably know. I don't know. That's a good question, though. I mean, I think if you sell it, if you monetize it, then yes, it's a crime.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, you're not doing that. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. See what he thinks. Oh, but Ebon, you were asking me the other day about what I had gotten at Comic-Con.
Yep. Are you finally all rested up?
Yeah, I feel all rested up, man. I feel better now, yeah. I don't know if you could see that in the dark over here. I'm in
Rebirth Batman?
Yeah, I got it signed by the artist.
Oh.
Right over here, David Fink. Yeah, it's in silver.
Yeah, I saw David Fink at the thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did it cost anything to get us signed copies?
For the first 2 books you gave him, they were free, and then everything afterwards was $5 each.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I got this. Got this one. I don't know if you can see it.
And this little shiny Moon Knight.
Yeah, Moon Knight. There he is again.
Nice. So I take it. Are you the one that gets like 2 copies, where you get one to read and you get one that you get signed, and that you don't ever take out of the protector?
Not really, no.
You're just really careful with it?
Yeah, I'm really careful with it, and these are very red, and they're great. I'm probably going to get the trade paperback, which is like, the volumes that collect a certain number of issues, like 1 through 5, 1 through 6. Yeah.
It's kind of like a... Yeah, I know what you mean.
Novel, yeah.
Yeah, no, graphic novel.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much more convenient and easier as opposed to having to take them out of the plastic, put them back in, and whatnot. Yeah.
I knew some people who would wear the latex gloves, take it out of the packet, they turn the pages with like a little, it's like a plastic ruler or something, or no, it would be the end of a pencil eraser, and they would turn the pages like that, read it, turn the page, and when they're all done, they just put it back in the cover. I don't even know why they would even bother. Just buy the second copies. Most of the time, it's only just like $1 for the comic anyway. At least way back then. They're probably a lot more expensive these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say not anymore, Ebon. Yeah, it's averaging like $3.
Okay.
Yeah, $3, $4. Some of them are $5. There's a series on Batman that just ended, Dark Knight 3. I think it was $6 each.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
So much for the good old cheap days of comic books.
I know. Yeah. I've seen like some comics like I have here that have the 50 cents label on them. I was like, wow, if only that still existed today, man. Wow. Fucking inflation. Yeah. Well, your daughter had a good time at Comic-Con?
My daughter did.
Yeah.
It was just a little overwhelming for me. Just, because it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to go see that. I'd like to go do that. Oh, the daughter is the one driving, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I hear you on that one, brother. Yeah, I know.
but
Tough.
they had pretty different stuff during when I went back on Saturday. I mean, most
Mhm.
like, of course, sometimes some of the actors and more celebrities showed up. Some of the booths were kind of changed up a bit. I mean, the ones selling the stuff and like the artists and whatnot, creators, they're
Mhm.
still there. But like you know how the first day there was R2D2 robots and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, they didn't have that on Saturday. Uh,
Yeah.
they did have like Walking Dead. The winner of like the what's the main guy's name? Rick's lookalike. And when I looked at him, I was like, man, that guy looks. I had to like look at him like a couple times, look at him for like 2 minutes. He was like busy doing something. I was like, is that really? No, that can't be real. That can't be really him. Is that really?
Yeah,
Because
you double
it's like
take.
there's no line, you know,
Mhm.
going to like see him or and stuff. So I looked around and it was like, oh, it was just a lookalike winner of the lookalike contest.
Mhm.
Creation of the Bee Girls.
I just saw that. Yeah, Snork just shared that. Invasion of the Bee Girls. That sounds like something from like the 40s to me, or the 50s. Start wrecking in the parking. What the? What is this, Snork?
I
There's
like
a
the
whole bunch of movies there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, check them out. It's not all silent pictures. Some of them looks like the 70s.
yeah. One of the
Same
Oh,
guys,
okay. Mhm.
that
copyright expired on.
the reviewer, one of the reviewers says the invasion of the Bee Girls. The plot is a film plot, no question about that. This is like watching a 70s porn film with sex scenes edited out for general commercial release. The difference is the acting is better in this.
Oh, if you guys really want to go old school, City Lights by Charlie Chaplin is a great movie. I've seen that. And also The General with Buster Keaton. It's another one from the 20s. It's really good. Wait, is it from the 20s or the... I think... But yeah, if any of you guys in the chat are silent film enthusiasts, those are some that you got to check out.
I don't think I've ever watched any of that stuff. Uh, yeah, I don't think I've ever really sat down to just watch an actual silent film.
Well, those are great starts, man. Especially City Lights, because it's funny, and so is The General. It's funny. It's that physical humor.
Yeah.
Um, if you have Turner Classic Movies, they show those every now and then, and it's actually hosted every now and then by what's his name, Mankiewicz from TYT.
Oh, that's one more reason to watch them.
You're gonna DVR every show now. It's gonna be recorded.
Oh, I thought it was Star Wars in the bikini. Bikini? Okay, wait. Star Wreck in the bikini. Perkining? Snork? I don't know what you're watching these days.
Let me see.
These are all from that site that has all of these public domain movies.
Okay.
Oh. Even stuff from the 80s.
Awesome.
Here's the real Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah, I've seen that movie, the documentary.
Are you sure it's not Bruce Lee? L-I?
No, it's him.
Yeah,
It's him.
I know. I was just kidding. Because they had, once he died, there used to be a lot of fake Bruce Lees just to market and get people to watch the movie. They'd be like spelled Bruce Lee, like L-E without the extra E, or L-I. It was pretty funny.
There's actually a guy who fights in the UFC whose nickname is Bruce Leroy.
Yeah. That's from there's a movie, I forgot what it was. It's like I forgot what it was. The main character was a martial artist, and it's kind of living the philosophy of Bruce Lee, and his real name was Bruce Leroy. That was kind of silly. Oh, Mad World's pretty good. I like that song. Oh, Last Dragon. That's right, Nash knows. Alright. So, what's a good time for, or date and time for it, do you think, the movie night? Fridays? Saturdays?
I definitely think should be the weekend.
Okay. Or just do a Sunday, no show, just a movie. Thing is, Sundays seems to be like a big thing for like TV shows these days.
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones, and a couple of others. Let's see. I was thinking. I'll have to look into this. Sorry. Snork, what's on your mind? You're kind of busy.
I was on the phone for a while today, and just a slow day for me. Trying to see what kind of work I can drum up.
Like,
and getting some projects going.
Okay. Like work?
Yeah, like work.
Okay. You're not retired or anything like that?
No.
Okay. You're still a contractor?
Yeah.
What do you look for these days?
It's hard to talk about.
Use code words. Replace a certain word with another word.
Pay benefits travel.
Okay. Hawaii would be your prime destination?
At least for part of the year.
Yeah.
It's very hard to go there and leave in the winter here.
Yeah.
You know, last time I was there for a week, and then came back into fall in Illinois, northern Illinois, and that's always a shock to the body.
Yeah. I know a couple people that kind of live out in the I don't know what you would call it. I don't know if Montana's Midwest, but Midwest to the slight west. They live there, but they travel a lot for work. Is that like a common thing in some like very remote areas?
Yeah, it is. Not for everybody, but for those who can, why not? You know, Montana would be fantastic in the summertime.
Yeah.
I can't imagine winters are.
But I figured I mean, because a lot of work that requires travel, pay pretty well. And then when you go back home, and it's like in Montana or Iowa or something, the cost of living, I can't imagine, is very high, right? Is it pretty
low here?
Yeah.
You could live for a year on what you could live for a month in Illinois. I can't imagine what the difference would be to California or New York City.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you had a job that you could work on the internet and you could handle living here for 5 years, you could probably save enough money to make up for the difference of not working the rest of your life.
Huh, that's a thought. I wouldn't mind it.
Well, you know, not every town is the same here either.
Yeah.
There's a town 26 miles from here where the cost of living is twice as much. But compare that to New York City or California.
Yeah.
And you're still like, no, wait a second.
I mean, Boston.
People pay for lunch, not for monthly rent.
Yeah.
The cost of living here is not cheap.
No. Because I have a lot of people that tell me, hey, come to California. And I'm like, but I could live
Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
on what I have for weeks there, and I could live on what I have for years here. So my thought is, okay, summers are okay here. I just want to be gone in the winters.
Yeah.
And winters aren't the same anymore. Global climate change is fast. Years. Well, when I grew up here, was gone for a little over 30 years. But in that time I was gone, when I left, from November through March, was always snow cover on the ground. And now there's storms where you get 24 inches of snow, and that melts in a few weeks, and then most of the winter is not snow cover. It's a drastically different climate. And the summers are changing here too. We're 2 degrees or 4 degrees warmer than when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It might not seem like very much when you're changing the temperature on your thermostat, but to the bugs that come alive and the birds that come north when it starts getting warm, the cycles don't match with the animals getting hatched with when the food is available anymore. And that's causing some problems.
Yep, I noticed that for fishing. If you're a fisherman, things change. Water levels, freshwater levels, I'm sure are also different. I was gonna say I was watching. I was kind of on like a Carl Sagan binge last couple days, and it's like he's talking about a lot of these issues today that we have with government, politicians, corruption, climate change, or global warming, and all this other stuff. That was like at least 20 to 30 years ago that he was talking about this.
Carl was definitely ahead of his time. Really brilliant man.
Yeah.
So was Orwell.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely.
And I found this video online on YouTube. It was I think Carl Sagan kind of like a teleconferenced in, and there was the theoretical physicist. What's his name? The one who's in a wheelchair.
Hawking.
Stephen
Yeah,
Hawking,
Stephen Hawking.
and then also the author Arthur C. Clarke, and they had a host moderating, and it was on for about like 53 minutes or so, and they're talking, or maybe it was maybe even longer than that, but they're talking about different issues and things like that. It was pretty cool. I mean, like this was like, well, yeah, at least 20 years ago. So, but it was pretty cool. You see Stephen Hawking, he's kind of young, and they're still talking a lot about a lot of the science and perspectives that we even talk about now. It's kind of like, man, we wasted a lot of time. We're behind on like what people thought of in the 80s, like where we're gonna be headed in technology. I mean, think about it. When you look at Back to the Future 2. Remember when they're thinking about of all these things that are gonna be invented and by like 2015. We've pretty much not even come close in some ways. Not like flying cars, definitely not. At least like commercially public flying cars. We haven't gone anywhere in space, at least manned missions, in a very long time still.
Oh, yeah, we really got to get that going.
Yeah.
It's just such a benefit down here to what we can do up there. We also start cleaning up our mess in space.
Yeah, it is a mess. Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, completely agree.
We could have constant missions going on there, cleaning up the damage that we've done in the last 60 years.
So a lot of the materials in space that from us is made out of metal, I would say. Like, does the magnetic field have any effect in slowing or speeding or collecting or whatever?
A lot of the metals that we send up are not magnetic.
Oh, okay.
One of the biggest things that we have up there that is kind of taboo to talk about is the astronauts throw little bags of waste overboard. Well, no, if you're going 40,000 miles an hour and something's coming at you at 26,000 miles an hour, a little bag of piss that's frozen is a pretty devastating object.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Also, how many moons does the planet Earth have? Natural moons.
What was that?
How many natural moons does the planet Earth have?
I don't know. I thought we only had
Yeah, I
one.
thought it was only one.
2 or 3. The third one is kind of iffy because it like buds up to us, and then it goes out to its own orbit, and then it comes back and buds up with us again.
So it's kind of a shared satellite?
Shared satellite between us and the sun. Another one that will get people. A long time ago, there was an argument between Galileo and the Pope over whether the Earth circled the moon whether the Earth circled the sun or the sun circled the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was right?
Well, Earth circled the sun.
Neither of them.
Neither?
We circle the center of the solar system's center of gravity.
Right.
And
None of us circle each other. If you were to throw a hammer through the air with a heavy head, have you noticed how it doesn't spin about the center of the hammer? It spins kind of really close to the head of the... We do the same thing. In fact, the moon does not orbit the Earth. We co-orbit.
Yeah.
The center of the co-orbit is a few hundred or a few thousand miles above the center of the Earth.
Hi, so I get here, and the first thing I hear is Snork talking about piss bombs.
Well, I'm glad I made your day.
So, we gotta launch a space garbage truck.
Yeah, a lot of them.
I mean, it feels like we just... The more we do stuff up there, the more we're gonna need to do more stuff up there to clean up the mess we make. And,
because we need to be thinking differently about how we do space travel.
yeah.
You know, instead of going up and thinking, wow, we got this vast open area, we can just dump anything we want anytime we like. And the truth is, we need to be doing arcs where we do an extremely elliptical orbit, go out, get a target, access that target as we go by. And if we have waste, we need to drop it back into our atmosphere, not just leave it out there. We have nuts, bolts, gloves, excess clothing. Most of the clothing from the International Space Station now and stuff that they discard, they put into the cargo vessel and send it down to burn in the atmosphere. But that wasn't the practice prior. One of the shuttles got hit by a paint chip, and it embedded almost all the way through the windshield. That's what started changing the philosophy of, well, there's so much space, we'll never hit anything. To we have to regard everything as a potential going to get hit sometime.
Yeah. Well, orbit is slightly different than just space, because now,
Right.
do you know if they've been implementing a lot of like solar panels, I guess, for fueling, like the International Space Station, things like that are up there for a long time, or is it just not manageable because of all that waste floating around? I would say not floating, orbiting around.
You mean for disintegrating waste?
What do you mean? I meant like so all the broken stuff, like the paint chips, the frozen urine, all this other stuff that can potentially hurt the International Space Station. Well, I would imagine that if they wanted to utilize like solar panels, because I mean they're up there, they're gonna see the sun all the time, at least on the outside of the space station, as a way of energizing the ship.
They use the solar panels for generating power. They can also change the attitude, which direction that the space station is oriented at, by moving things on the ship.
Okay.
But if they actually want to move, they actually have an engine on board that once they've reoriented it, they can burn. Their fuel is limited.
Yeah.
And each time they have to do this, their chances of doing it again go way down. And they have had to shift their orbit drastically a few times to avoid debris.
Because I feel like if we're gonna need, if we're gonna do space exploration, we're gonna need to rethink the way that we use fuel.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Even condensing fuel can leave droplets that can be a future problem. So, if you have a fuel basically returns to being water, well, it can form up. They're hoping that ablates. Is that the proper term? where it goes from, because the low pressure out there, that it goes from a gas almost directly to a solid almost directly to a gas. But it all depends on where the sun is and where it's shining. Yeah. So, but I really think that we need to get to the asteroids, and we need to get there fast to start resolving some of our problems.
Now, The universe is made mostly of hydrogen and helium. Is there an easy way to get that to use as fuel?
I know that they've been working on ways to make fuel in different atmospheres. The sun itself streams out almost a constant stream of what could be used to make hydrogen. It's in a very low pressure. The problem is the oxygen. Is that you pretty much to find orbits, or actually touch down on the moon to extract oxygen from the moon, or to extract oxygen from Mars. And the farther away from the sun you go, the more that whatever you have. There's this constant stream of particles from the sun. It goes out so far beyond Pluto that our spacecraft that have been traveling for decades have just only reached it. And they call that the heliopause, where the particles leaving the sun equal in pressure to the particles coming from the rest of the solar or the galaxy.
So helium is an inert gas. So
Yeah.
has there ever been an application of its usage that's useful? Have
Yes,
we found
there
out
has.
a way? Okay.
Stop thinking of helium as one element. Start thinking of it as a bunch of elements.
Compound?
No. It's multiple elements, and each of the sub ones is different. Helium-3 is probably the one that we're most familiar with, not from balloons, but things that go boom. Whereas helium, what we call helium, is helium-2. Well, that's not right either. It's helium with 2 neutrons. It would actually be helium-4, and the other one would be helium-5. But maybe I got that wrong. Maybe that's helium. Maybe it's helium-3. It's as you change the number of neutrons, each of the isotopes have very different properties, and that's true with hydrogen, where most people are used to hearing the word hydrogen, and they don't realize that there's hydronium, what we think of as hydrogen. There is deuterium, there is tritium, and there are at least 4 others. The other 4 are pretty nasty. They don't have a very long half-life.
How do we add or subtract neutrons in elements?
Usually, it's not a friendly situation. The Large Hadron Collider is good for it. Fermilab can do it, and in nuclear reactors, after there's a reaction, you'll often find different what they call species. That means elements that have shifted their flavors.
Can those be occurring outside in space or in asteroids or whatever?
Even plutonium, they say doesn't occur naturally. That is incorrect. It has occurred naturally in the past. It just has to have the right situations. And there's been 3 instances where they've found evidence that plutonium had formed and decayed in Africa.
Wow. See, this would be great if our civilization would be talking about this for space travel rather than this for making weapons.
Yeah. The Russians, when Russia fell and they needed money desperately, we bought their nuclear engines so they wouldn't fall into bad hands. And one day they tested their nuclear engines, which is basically a nuclear reactor with an open back end. And they fired it up, and it blinded a bunch of our spy satellites. And we didn't know what it was at first. And so once we found out, we made sure that when the Soviet Union fell, we acquired those engines. They would be capable of fast travel to the outer part of the solar system. I'm not sure of the survivability of the astronauts.
So But wait, why not? I mean, there's like radiation belts that are just as.
No. We puncture through the radiation belts. Our theory for space travel has always been go where they're the smallest, get through them the fastest.
Okay.
It's really the same philosophy we have for people that work around nuclear materials. Know where the danger is and get out of there. Get in and out, get out fast.
Okay. So there's not enough shielding that we can put into spacecraft that will protect us from
some things. Shielding just isn't possible, and sometimes it's not economically feasible.
Yeah.
For the spacecraft, we didn't have a lot of knowledge. We didn't have a lot of materials. We didn't know how to manipulate materials. We were lucky to be able to work with alloys of titanium at that period of time.
Yeah.
And so we had to send people into orbit in aluminum, titanium type hulls. And we didn't even know what happens when you take those alloys through a magnetized radiation belt.
So, in your opinion, we haven't been to the moon, manned missions to the moon in over, what, 40 years?
40 years.
Would it be easier to do that now?
Harder.
Why harder? I don't get that.
We
went there. Sorry.
During that time, there was no questioning it. Now we have all kinds of political.
Well, let's take the political stuff aside. Just the science, just get there, and get back.
In a way, a lot of it would be easier. But now that we know some of the hazards, we really ethically should address them before we send somebody up there. The spacecraft we had were marvels of technology. Absolutely amazed that they were able to make it to the moon in those spacecraft. They got there on the first ship. Neil Armstrong accidentally broke off the switch to reignite the engine to lift off from the moon. Buzz Aldrin came up with the idea, and pens were really special for them. You needed constantly writing down things and whatever. Buzz Aldrin gave up his pen and made a new switch for them to ignite the booster to take off. That's how close, and that wasn't the only instance, that's how close they keep coming to not having a successful mission, which was they were supposed to all three come back alive.
Well, and the landing itself, the landing itself wasn't supposed to be on manual from what I understood. They
had a computer on board, and it basically it was well designed. The guy knew that it would run into problems, and as it ran into the inability to process data around it, it started prioritizing which options that it should take to land, and they started getting all of these alarms going off, and the alarms were it saying, "I no longer can handle that. That system's offline." And it basically went down to the point where Neil Armstrong had to just guess and shut it down. And the only other previous time that he attempted to land one on manual, he crashed.
Yeah. It's a simulation. Yeah.
They at that time they figured out it was not possible to land on manual. So they were at a worst case scenario when he made the landing. That's another reason that is probably not faked. Some of the things that they did wrong, they wouldn't have admitted really.
Yeah, they'd have hit the spot right on and everything else. That wouldn't have been.
Yeah, it would have been a flawless, execution, and I agree with you there, Snort.
Yeah, the Buzz Aldrins, I had to break my pen to make a part. And, I mean, imagine they had to be writing things down constantly, settings and whatever, and to not have a pen meant that it's just the same as shutting off your computer. That meant that they were having to do things basically on Buzz Aldrin's calculator and in his head until they could get back up to the command module for a backup pen. The weight was important. They didn't carry a lot of spares.
Now, taking off, say, we had an International Space Station that was more of like a hub where you could take off from. Would it be less efficient to take off from there, or more efficient to take off from there than using a rocket from the Earth?
Actually, less. What Buzz Aldrin and his nickname was actually Dr. Orbit, proposed a permanent orbiting vehicle between the Earth and the Moon and Earth and Mars, where it would have just constantly going around. And when we launched, we would launch to that vehicle and use this vehicle that was already in orbit, already using its energy, as the transfer vehicle to take us from the one place to the other, so that we didn't have to keep launching the living areas. And that we basically do like we do with the ISS, where we'd replenish, get to the other location, deorbit, and then catch the next one for the trip back.
How do we detect orbits? Are there instruments that can?
No, you calculate them, which means we need to get a lot more people knowledgeable of math.
That would help.
An orbit in 6 dimensions, 7 dimensions, whatever. Imagine go back to we're not orbiting sun, we're orbiting the center of the solar system, weight and mass and movement, which means that is constantly moving, and it wobbles, and it's affected by all 13 of the planets.
Right.
And as the planetoids, lesser planets, all the other names they want to use for them now. But every single thing in our solar system makes the sun wobble. So everything is affected by everything else. So everything wobbles, and it's not perfect. So the orbit people actually don't call them orbits. They call them orbital manifolds, because if you looked at them where you put all the lines together where they possibly could be, they'd look like the surface of a potato, not the surface of an egg. All kinds of dimples and rises and changes depending on where everything else is at that moment in the solar system.
Well, doesn't it not only wobble, but it moves like a corkscrew through space too, right?
That's correct.
Well, and like things in space that have their own magnetic pole, or their own whatever pole. That all gets figured. My daughter was doing that. Was part of what she was doing during one of her parts of her internships, was dealing with the big data for just one of the moons of one of the, I can't remember which planet, but taking that and modeling it and then redoing it, because it was like you had to fit things so they would work, not so that it wasn't just like pure data to throw in there. It was like you have some data and you had to take it and make it work with the rest, like a Sudoku or something.
Yeah. But even our solar system, our galaxy wobbles too.
But how much of this wobble is affected in their calculations? It's got to be low percentage.
I'm not sure, but it depends. The more back in the 60s, they went from using 3 significant digits to using 14. By the end of the 74, they were making calculations with, I think, 19 significant digits. And when you're talking about a lot of miles away, a very tiny number makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in addition, I mean, it's as a predictive model, it's, I mean, we can tell maybe what's going on up until, like right now, up until the 14th digit, but there's no way to predict, like, you know, any kind of long-term trend or any of the factors. I mean, how many of the factors are just missing in that equation? You know,
well,
it just...
we have the problem, and again, it comes back to political, more than just machine limits. When you have a mandate by your policy chiefs that anything over 6,000 years doesn't exist, it means you can't buy a telescope that can see more than 6,000 light years.
Yeah.
And if you have one, you're being told what you can do to get rid of it.
They're not actually doing it, are they?
Yes, remember the Hubble?
Oh, yeah.
Bush tried to deorbit the Hubble because it was producing bad information.
Bad information.
Well, it was telling, they were saying that they had stuff from the Earth to possibly be old, so that the data coming from the Hubble wasn't valid. So they wanted to shut down that operation and deorbit the Hubble.
Yeah,
But
Grandpa Pat was having a shit fit about that, and all of the evangelicals were having a shit fit about the Hubble.
remember the Viking mission to Mars? This had been in the 70s, mid 70s. They thought that there was possibility that they discovered what was necessary for possible life on Mars. They didn't say they discovered life on Mars. They said they discovered some of the elements that might have been possible. Guess what got canceled?
Yeah.
I remember some of that controversy. I just don't remember anything coming of it, but that was the result. Ridiculous.
It was very hard to get curiosity up there, just because of, well, it doesn't matter because life can't exist there. God doesn't grace Mars.
So
The equipment they were asking for, they couldn't get on there. The most brilliant piece of equipment that they were able to sneak onto, I think it was Curiosity, was a sundial. And it was actually Bill Nye the Science Guy that got it snuck on there. And he put on a color calibration tool on the sundial. And it was the first time that they were ever able to positively coordinate the color of the cameras, which meant that they could use it to identify chemistry that was there, because they had to sneak in the ability for it to identify certain chemistries.
That's ridiculous.
So, question for everyone. So, there's a theory that a chunk of Mars way back was blasted off and probably landed on Earth, and the materials that create life or provide life was from Mars. Do you guys think that as a theory you'd follow?
It's quite possible, and it is called transpermia.
Mm-hmm.
TRANSPERMIA. There's some really, really cool videos on it when they first tried to explain the phenomena. But yeah, it's possible.
Well, Mars has a giant scar on it. It like has this kind of like meteor floating around it. I mean, its magnetosphere like is stripped off because it stopped, the core stopped spinning or something. So, I mean, there's a lot of, you don't have to know a lot to at least have some.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Eric.
What's up, Eric?
Well, Snork, I have a question for you. Like some of these materials, these raw materials that you've been talking about, can they be found on the moon?
Yes, they should be found underneath the surface dust in small quantities.
I have a question.
Because you were talking about getting these materials off a satellite, and if we could mine it off of the moon fairly simply, that would be just an idea.
Well, we have water. We have found water on the moon.
Yeah.
So that right there is fuel too, if we can process it.
Well, the moon is close enough that we can actually lift off without fuel. It's called mass driving, and what we need is electricity. And it's a lot of the days it's in the sunlight. So it's very easy to propel something to 25 miles an hour, break moon orbit, and get it to come down to Earth with no fuel.
So
Catch it on our end.
I was thinking too. You were talking about a routes to the Mars, or routes to wherever we're going. I mean, wouldn't it make sense too to build a space station in between the moon and the Earth, just so that we can use the slingshot effect to go to different places?
There are two positions. They're called L1 and L2. One of them is somewhere between the Earth and the moon, where the pull between the Earth and the moon are almost equal at that point. They're called libration points. And I can't tell you which one is which. It's been so long since I read it. But the other one is the equal point between the Earth and the Sun. And that's also just as valid. Because one of the Voyagers we actually sent past Venus before we sent out. We used it going past Venus to get the speed. I think.
Oh, I mean, and we had which one was it that we had? Now that you started talking about this makes me wonder, Snork, because we had one of the Explorer satellites that we sent, or the Explorers that we sent up, and we sent out, and it stayed alive forever. I can't remember which one it was, but we sent it up and it kept going.
There's two Voyagers, and two Pioneers.
Well, I know one kept on. It was like amazing because it kept on. It kept on going, and it was supposed to die at like I don't know what.
We told it to go to sleep this year. We told it to go to sleep this year. It's conserving power, and it will wake back up and send another burst.
I think it's it makes me wonder now, did they engineer it so that, I know that everything's engineered so that it's like over engineered, but still, I mean, it's still a good question.
I was reading that that the moon does the moon's atmosphere, it's very, very thin, but it has like unusual gases like sodium and potassium that's not even found on. Wait, what? Where are you pointing?
Oh, Bram wanted to say something.
Oh, sorry.
I just had a question. This bugs the shit out of me. Okay, so basically, Christians basically said that they didn't want the Hubble telescope to look past 6,000 years because that would debunk their bullshit. But here's the problem with that. There is a radio signal that still exists to this day that points back to the goddamn Big Bang, which is over 14 trillion years ago? I mean, how the fuck do they reconcile that?
I didn't say that it was rational.
They don't try to reconcile. That's the answer. They just discard the data.
Like the universe is only 10,000 years old, Bram.
Dude, there's this place in Kentucky I've been to. It tells the whole story. People were riding around on dinosaurs.
The Noah's Ark
Tells it all.
Museum.
No, it's a different
Museum?
one. Yeah, it's that. They're two separate museums. There's the Noah's Ark one, and then there's the creation.
if there was ever a place in this country that needed a terrorist strike, that would be one.
That's harsh.
I'm sorry, but this shit's just, it really gets under my skin.
Okay, so, all right. So SpaceX is launching a supercomputer up to the space station.
But it can only count to 6,000?
I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I mean, what better place to control everything but from space and all the satellites? Hey, Media One Media, what's up?
Well, space is the high ground. Like, I've read a lot about space warfare.
All right. Well, we'll continue this a bit later. One Media, what we usually do is when you're on, when someone's on for the first time, you can say hi, introduce yourself, say where you're from. Plus, also test your mic, see if it works. We can't hear you. You might need to change your mic settings. Still can't hear you. Anyways, whenever you think you've got your mic fixed. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you now.
Okay, now I'm here. Okay.
Still can't hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Whenever you think you've got your mic fixed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You need to mute YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. So you gotta mute your YouTube stream?
Can you hear
Because we
me?
get a lot of feedback from that.
Can you hear me?
You need to mute. It's looping right now.
I'm gonna bring my YouTube stream up so I can see what people are talking about also.
Well, you just need to mute it.
Yeah, you can. You just need to mute the YouTube stream.
It's looping right
I'm
now.
gonna bring my YouTube stream up so I can see.
That's better.
There you go.
That's good.
All right. So, where are you from?
Is this working? Can you hear me now?
Yep, we hear
Yeah,
you
yes.
loud and clear.
I'm from California, Northern California, born in San Francisco, raised 60 miles north of there.
So,
Cool.
awesome.
Aloha.
Hello.
Very cool, dude. I think I saw you in in the chat today.
Chuck E. Cheese, you see me all the time.
Oh, you're
What's
Chuck.
up? I thought
all right.
I thought
Like,
you
he's
were
my
Chuck.
real
Hi,
name.
Chucky. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
Where are you from the chat?
I'm from originally San Francisco, but I was born in San Francisco, raised in Petaluma, California, which is about 60 miles north. It's called Sonoma County.
Oh, cool.
Gotcha.
All right, Al. As long as you're not drunk.
A little bit.
I'm shit-faced.
You're
Well, you're
always-
always shit-faced. That's the difference.
I'm always shit-faced, so.
all right, keep going. James and Garden, you guys were.
The question was, so SpaceX sending up a supercomputer to the space station. In my mind, I'm like, what better way to control everything but by satellite? You know, AI takes over. It's just totally hypothetical. Just the first domino of the conspiracy theory. But Jesus, man, that would be a great place to have. What was the in iRobot? What was the name of the robot girl? The girl that I forgot her name, Claire or something.
I don't remember.
I don't remember, but
I remember Hal.
that's not how. This a little more advanced, but she controlled all the iRobots eventually, and just
Right.
you know,
See,
it was all
that-
from satellite.
I was thinking 42, which is the answer to life, life something and
Like the
everything.
universe and everything.
Yeah, life, the universe, and everything is 42.
Right.
Bridget Moynihan seems to be the leading star in iRobot. That's female.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm talking about the supercomputer. She had a name,
Don't remember.
whatever that is. But you guys know
I
what
read
I'm
the
talking
book
about.
a long time ago, but I still haven't seen the movie.
Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there.
all right. I need to eat because I didn't eat dinner.
All right,
Eric
Ebon.
just got the con. I'll be around.
Bon appetit.
What are you gonna eat tonight?
Probably some ramen.
Cool. I had a chicken pot pie earlier. Half of the one.
Those are good.
So did you guys hear about the lead investigator, Peter First, just whatever his name was, pulled out of? I put it in the chat. He pulled out of the Russia investigation with Mueller.
Okay.
He said, I think he said, well, fuck this, because this is a fucking nothing burger. That's what I think he did.
Nothing.
Yeah, he didn't want to be a part of it. He just
We all
did.
know that.
Because you know that Dana Warbacher, nobody fucking likes that guy, which I don't trust him anyway. He's going to go see Julian Assange, which
He already did.
I don't trust, but he's going to go see Julian Assange and get some information in regards to the hacking, the supposed hacking, and if Seth Rich was. Yeah, I know we don't know what kind of information he's going to bring back. H.A. Goodman is fucking just elated, and he's been happy for the past 20 hours. Big old smile, but I told him, I typed him, I said, dude, don't get too excited. You don't know what the fucking Dana's going to do. It could plant like a virus on the dude. Who knows? I don't trust those fuckers.
Anything can happen.
Exactly.
Can happen.
And he might come back with nothing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sick of these nothing narratives,
Well, my biggest concern is there's a price to everything. He could come back and say, I've got fucking everything that can take down the entire DNC. You guys need to give me the White House next year. I'll fuck the whole party. Who knows? It's I mean, if you got that, that's a powerful tool. That's a powerful tool if you come back with absolute proof, with unequivocal proof that's substantive and viable.
Yeah,
you could use that as a bartering, as a way to do some negotiations.
Right, but the thing is, though, is anybody attached to this Russia investigation, I mean, you have to know that their reputations are going to be completely and utterly destroyed once
everybody
comes out. Everybody.
Yeah,
They're all
fucking Rachel Maddow will be fucking just.
Oh yeah.
She'll get fired.
And I will laugh very, very hard when that happens.
I'll fucking have a keg party in my house, dude. I'll have a keg party in my house.
Yeah, the kegger is on. Definitely. It's happening because it's just.
Maddow's not going anywhere.
And let's remember, we don't really want to see the DNC go down. I mean, we never really thought they could be so. Hold on, we never really thought they could be so bad and so heinous. And then all of a sudden, Bernie came around and kind of showed us what the fuck was really going on.
Yeah.
And then they showed their true colors, and now we're just like, you know what? You guys are fucking shitheads. We don't want you around anymore. We already knew that.
Feels like there's an incredible amount of points of rallying points that we could potentially use that we really don't take advantage of. I mean, especially renewable energy, because all the people that I know on renewable energy are right-wing people. And they can convince these people that monetarily it's a benefit.
Right.
It's just not monetarily a benefit to the oil companies and things like that.
Right.
Temporarily, it's certainly not a benefit, but in the long term, renewable certainly is, and it's a conservative point, and I never see it.
Yeah.
But here's one thing: they could still make money off of it because they could update, newer and newer technology, to absorb sun energy and make it even more efficient.
Absolutely.
And they can capitalize off of that.
I think the top efficiency they have for solar right now is 70%, and that's a really complicated setup where they break the light into two parts and absorb it into two separate areas to get to that efficiency.
Right, but here's
and that's
the problem.
expensive to make.
Right, but
very expensive.
Here's the problem. I've studied this a little bit. The problem with renewables, and the reason why you're not going to see conservatives per se jump on it, is because a lot of them see what the long-term Could be. And the fact is that the renewables in the long term.
Yeah, well, the long term is impossible until we present it in the public sphere as a potential cost benefit. We're never going to have a potential to see or even calculate effects realistically.
But
you're right, Chuck, that, like, you know, it is a true conservative would support renewable energy.
Right.
You know, that is a point that we could sell them on if we could get them out of the.
No, they're there.
If they want real energy independence, they'd support renewables.
What was that, Kev?
If they want real,
you just don't see that Republicans and conservatives are already there. I mean, they understand global warming. They think it's an incredible factor. I mean, and they preserve renewables just on the fact that they can more efficiently and with less cost sometimes survive on them.
Well, I'm not seeing it so much that they're already there. There is a certain percentage of conservatives who are already there.
There are 10,000.
Well, the only conservatives that really matter, the ones in Congress, are absolutely
of the Green Party, or
yeah, that's an excellent point.
The
Kevin.
left, as far as that.
Yeah, I don't really see a lot of Republicans jumping in line to pull electricity off of the grids that are supported by coal, fracking, oil, etc.
From what I've seen, Republicans and Democrats both have been making it
live
harder.
on solar energy. I mean, as opposed to Democrats, it's like zero.
From what I have seen with Republicans and Democrats, they are both making it more difficult for average people to try to get any form of energy dependence themselves.
True.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, they designed the whole setup to where, oh, no, you're just a pawn and we control everything and fuck you.
I agree.
Warren Buffett's a perfect example. The guy was, I mean, had given voice to a number of left-wing ideas. And here in California and Nevada, he's doing everything he can to stifle solar power because he's got too many investments, personal investments, in fossil fuels.
Hey, Snork. Okay, just really quickly off the top of your head, rattle off all the renewable energies that could be implemented anywhere in the United States.
Please.
You probably have a very good idea.
Number one is sewage. We waste an incredible amount of energy of our sewage, and it causes what's called eutrophication in the Gulf Coast and along the east coast of the United States, where there's so much nutrients from our sewer systems. Basically, pre-digest a bit of the sewage, and the rest of it goes into rivers. A lot of that then soaks into all the water supplies of almost every city in the United States, and then we could be.
So that's energy and farming. We could use that for both, right?
Yeah, we don't need as much for farming. You can't believe how little nutrients we use because we are so nutrient wasteful here. But we have enough waste here in Iowa alone to take over half of the need to drill anywhere for any reason or way.
Okay.
Next. The solar has to be broken up into solar thermal, and solar thermal has multiple types. You have solar consolidation thermal, which is where you heat up salt. Yeah, where you concentrate and you heat up salt, or you can heat up fluid, or you can heat up air. The air is usually used immediately, like for home heating or other. The solar, where you're heating up salt, is generally used for
24-hour power production.
Right. Then the solar photovoltaic, which is using light
loads.
Right. And then another one you have solar steam producing, where you're driving turbines to use mechanical generators to generate power.
Well, that's what the concentrated ones are doing with the salt. They use the salt to heat water to turn a turbine.
Yeah. Well, and then there's solar photo or solar thermoelectric, and nobody says that you can't put solar thermoelectric with photoelectric and combine the two power sources.
That I have not seen yet. I've only seen it with the gadolinium cells for the experimentation they were doing in Australia, and they had to use a massive cooling system to pull it off.
Okay, that is magnetocaloric, but the thermoelectric is what we use to power things. Voyager, Curiosity.
Yeah, thermoelectric, the seatback effect.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Snort. Let's keep it easy for people.
Feedback effect is two dissimilar conductors touching each other, and one side's heated and one side's cool, and the heat flow across it causes a direct current to flow.
Yeah. What happens is when you put sunlight onto a solar cell, the blue ones you're used to seeing, heat up the solar cells, and for every watt of electricity you produce, you put off 3 watts, 3 times as much heat into the air. And it's actually, we have heat pollution on the planet. It's getting warmer and warmer, and we don't have the ability to cool it. So what the thermoelectric can do is you can slap it on the back and have something colder on the back side of the photoelectric cell. And you can get another 12% power boost out of that solar cell by combining the two. And I think that we're getting desperate. So pretty soon we're going to start seeing more of those paired together. The magnetocaloric is where you use a magnet to squelch a material and basically squeeze the heat out of it, which is extremely efficient and would reduce how much electricity we need. Then we have heat engines, like the Stirling engine, where air gets hot and it moves a piston. And when the piston gets past a certain point, lets cold air in and it contracts.
Feels like to me you're discussing this extremely specific thought process that comes to possibly engineers or somebody, but
sorry about that.
I feel like the left wing can easily promote the right wing in suggesting renewable, and I'm all about process because the cost in long-term deficit is less.
Yeah, I agree. That was the original point, was that, renewable energy is something that both sides of the political spectrum, if you want to phrase it that way, could come together on.
Right. But
and if we can provide cheap ways, and if we can get the distribution of this technology moving, I mean, it's already there.
Yeah, most of these technologies are available now, could be implemented now. We could be fully off of the need to drill anything in probably 7 years. If we had a moon-like project like activity, Apollo or a Manhattan level.
The concept basically is that it should be a conservative argument to use renewable energy, but somehow it's not, because social justice and all this bullshit has infiltrated it somehow.
Well, it's decade after decade of Exxon
evolution of the issues.
Companies pumping Americans full of propaganda about what kind of lifestyle is available with fossil fuels.
Yeah, many of these
what happened without them.
Many of these methods would have a payback of less than 5 years. I mean, where they start paying for themselves, and we'd be positive after that to go to a second phase. And when you talk about the amount of energy necessary to make 1 mile of road is just incredible. All the mining that has to go to get the limestone out. You have to cook all of the carbon dioxide out of the limestone and make quicklime. Got to go out there and mix it. Got all this digging and pushing around. That if we were to instead, because we have so much extra sewage left over after, if we were to use some of it for making fuel, we could use the rest to make artificial limestone. We don't need to dig a quarry for limestone. We can make it.
Yep.
And, so we should be making it from our sewage. so that a 18-mile strip of road isn't the equivalent of killing 5,000 acres of forest. And we have to start thinking about, what are our actions? What do we need to do to use up the carbon dioxide instead of making more? Well, here we go.
There's tons of uses for carbon dioxide. I mean, this is beyond ridiculous, the situation we've placed ourselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Blame the government.
Well, we've been all doing stupid things for thousands of years. 6,000 years.
Yep.
Yeah, only 6,000 years.
At least we stopped riding dinosaurs and killed them off.
We have bones hundreds of thousands of years old, but only 6,000.
Yeah, it's surprising how that an industry that bases their livelihood on plants that died
millions of years ago.
Deny the existence of the Earth more than 6,000 years ago.
It makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
But there's a radio signal that's, much older, but whatever.
It's all part of God's plan. That's the only answer I need.
Well, God,
really
God's a schizoid motherfucker.
He'll take care of it. Don't worry.
So there are these incredible tax brackets, and I think once it gets to $700,000 a year, you outreach the tax bracket in which they start charging you more, and then you become the tax bracket in which they start charging you less, and that seems to me extremely obscene.
It is. It's completely lopsided. It basically targets everybody that's poor and everybody that's rich. Oh, now you're going to get richer.
The solution, we need to go back to the Eisenhower tax rates.
Well, the concept that you take people at a certain point in ratings, which is like 700,000, and issue them to a 50% tax rate, and then again requests that they have almost no taxes after they clear that goal seems extremely absurd.
Yeah, because then they use that money that they get for tax-free afterwards to invest it, just basically make more money off of just money.
Yeah, that's why the Eisenhower tax rates make sense, though, because it forces corporations to reinvest it in corporations here. And we could easily work the tax code so we could work.
I mean, if you make $400 million, tax the shit out of you.
Well,
just
yeah,
crap out of you. I mean,
once you make
85%, okay, that's okay. You make $500 billion a year.
After $10 million, it should be like 90%. I mean, it shouldn't even be,
Well, again, I think the solution to solving this stranglehold...
I see these arguments, the 1% versus the 99%, and they're just like autistic screeching. And it should be realistic. It should make sense. I mean, I see sensible arguments, but they're never displayed. It just makes me crazy in my head.
Well, I think, again, to end the corporate stranglehold on the tax code, and the solution to many other problems as well, is to enforce antitrust laws. Start breaking up these companies. Force antitrust laws.
Add like half a dozen more higher tax rates to take up for those people that are in the multi-million, billion-dollar
half a dozen more tax rates. That's literally perfect.
And that
I
way,
don't understand
because
the condescension or the protest. I mean, even possibly from even the furthest left.
Well, before we can, again, like, you know, we'll never break their hold on our tax code as long as they have so much consolidated wealth, so much consolidated power. We have to break them up. Antitrust laws, and then we can start maybe solving some of these other problems. I think antitrust laws is, you know, enforcing the ones on the books now is one of the most important actions we can take in the near future.
A federal job guarantee is also a good one, because then it would kind of basically anybody at those private organizations that are, you know, basically those are the group of people that have accumulated this large amount of money, and then everybody else is working for them because they're the only people that they find money for. You have a federal job, because so basically they can pay them whatever the fuck they want, you know, and they have no leverage. The people have no leverage to fight against it really that much. But if you do a federal job guarantee, well, then they just lost all their fucking employees because they went and worked somewhere else. Oh, now they got to pay more. You know what I mean? It forces them to compete instead of like it is now, where it's a buyer's market. Whoever is rich, oh, you can have whatever you want.
If you have the capital, you can get the best employees, and those best employees are usually going to Wall Street or high tech or Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
they're not around here.
No.
You know what I really don't like about the trust laws? It's like people like Lee Camp. I love this guy, Lee Camp. I'm a big fan, but then he sat there with Antifa and probably tried to kill and murder people for like a full day and completely erased this from public memory while recording it. I mean,
I'm not sure what you mean. Are you saying that he edited
extremely mixed
film? Are you saying that he edited his footage or something?
Yeah, I don't get what you mean either.
Yes, exactly. He was recording while the terrorist, the right-wing Nazi terrorist, hit this poor woman who was an Antifa protagonist. I mean, it's not portray in a dishonest light. I mean, he
was a wobbly.
Trading with Antifa. I mean, and that, for me, it's just like a non-starter.
I know it's... Go ahead, continue.
You're
Sorry.
with these guys who are parading, murdering the fascist while being a hair's breadth away from fascists. I mean...
How many dead fascists? How many dead fascists? How many dead fascists?
I mean, Hitler.
No, I mean, how many dead fascists recently?
You know, Russia.
I mean, no. Give me a body count for like.
You know,
give me a body count for like 2014.
They were all technically fascists.
But how? I mean, from 2014 to the present, how many dead fascists do we have?
I mean, there's very little support. It's considered a defeated idea. I mean...
Well, I mean, the thing about it is the defeated idea killed 2 people in Portland, Oregon, and killed one person, and killed one person.
Killed like 200 million.
So it doesn't look real defeated
in the last 90 years.
I mean, if we're talking, if we're just going body count, we're racking them up. That doesn't count the person that got shot.
No, Iraq doesn't count, but certainly Russia and China and all the other socialist regimes have.
And Heather was a member of the IWW.
Yes, she was.
She was a socialist. She wasn't an
Heather Heyer was an Antifa member who was brutally murdered. And it was incredibly wrong.
Well, the fact is, we're seeing both the left and the right ramp up their violence. We got factions of the left shooting cops. We've got
both sides. They've ramped up their violence to an extreme that's incredibly, really scary to me.
We got people on the right running people over with cars and shit. I mean, you know, at some point we have to stop looking at it as a left-right paradigm and start recognizing.
I thought that the person had to be left-wing because they murdered a person with a car because of all the stuff that's going on in the Middle East and Europe and Britain and all of this with a car murder. It just seemed so perfect to fit in the ISIS manifesto booklet of things that were going on.
ISIS is a conservative mindset, man. That's this ultra-conservative religious doctrine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like
for a second,
not even close,
but
man.
it seemed like their playbook, but instead it came from the alt-left.
Well, in any case, we're seeing, like, you know, social tensions rise, and this goes beyond left and right paradigms, like I was saying.
But
It's a symptom of larger problems within our society, and I think those problems are being exacerbated by media.
Yeah, like 40
Which,
years
again,
of neoliberalism and privatization and the killing of full employment.
The antitrust laws would help us with that. We need to repeal the Telecommunications Act, for example.
Right. Now the thing is to go back to One Media's perspective on taxes, and to change the tax bracket situation. Here's the thing, though: in a modern monetary theory economy, which is what we have, taxes don't pay for anything. So what is the purpose behind taxes? Well,
federal taxes don't pay for anything.
No, right. Federal taxes don't pay for anything. The whole point of having a federal tax system in this type of economy is to do one thing and one thing only, and it's the one thing it fails at, and that is to eliminate wealth inequality. That is the only purpose to even have it.
Sorry, if you want to be on the left and you want to try and challenge the ability of people to succeed, you have to bring this issue up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that you don't hear talked about very often at all, but it's a fact. The only reason our federal tax system exists...
Certainly far from a popular issue. It's not something that people want to discuss on CNN.
No, of course not.
Bram, I wanted to say the federal taxes, the purpose isn't exactly it's more of a more leveled out equity versus, I mean, it does have some mitigating effects on income inequality, but to have an effect on income inequality, you have to spend onto the parts that are in equal parts.
Absolutely, but the point is that when you levy the highest percentage,
you're taking purchasing of power away from incredibly rich people that have way too much.
That when you get to a certain level of being beyond the regular human being, that even potentially controls part of the media for Google. I've been area advocate / moderator for certain areas of different companies, but I mean, what it seems is that you certainly become a censor of other people that don't agree with you, which is extremely unfortunate and very problematic, in my opinion.
Okay, so the biggest thing here is, I mean, we've been talking about the Antifa, and in my Facebook I put, hey, is Antifa Samoan? Because it sounds like a Samoan term. But anyway, what I find so very interesting about this is, these people represent a tiny little piece of a sliver of most of us, right?
they're an incredibly small minority.
Yeah, but yet they're getting the biggest stage. You know,
Does that seem like a coincidence?
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's my point, dude. That's my point.
I'm not entirely convinced that Antifa isn't a co-opted mindfuck. That at some point maybe they did start out as a grassroots group, and then they were co-opted, and now they're being used for various political.
Yeah, just like the Tea Party. The Tea Party is a good example of that.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking these people are a whole lot more fucking organized than they are capable. You're talking about a bunch of anarchists, man. You get 4 anarchists in a room together and try to fucking organize something. Okay.
Good.
Hey, Broken Carpenter, have you done a little research on what the government has done infiltrating opposition groups and co-opting them?
Yeah, but they have.
Yeah. This is recorded throughout history.
I know that. I'm just telling you to do these kind of things. You know, these George Soros check, deep conspiracy bullshit things. Forget about it. You're looking for a level of organization. These people aren't capable of being led that much.
You're wrong about that.
Yeah, you're wrong about that.
Everybody resists authority in these groups. So anybody
the people on the ground, dude,
anybody
they're not
tries
really
to
aware of
jump
what's up.
Anybody that tries to jump to the fore or settle in with these people are all paranoid and all against power. So they're not exactly.
Can you think of a better way to manipulate a group?
You don't get. Yeah, but you can't manipulate.
You can manipulate anyone.
Okay, so here, hold on. This is the point I think that Kevin and myself and Gardner are trying to make is they start off. They're of course they're unorganized. They're probably just stood next to the car, fucked up, drunk, or whatever. Who knows? And they're trying to get stuff together, right? Smoking just stogies, but. And then they start to get aligned and they go meet out and go do their little thing, whatever side they're on. And then somebody says, well, how can we exploit this activity?
How can we kick it up to the next level, basically?
Yeah. And then they bust them in and then they start growing and then they start hiring people, which is,
that hiring stuff and busing people in, that's just horse shit. I mean, every time I see that, I laugh because basically anybody gets.
I was a joke.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say.
But I do think if they can, they will find a way to exploit these people.
They always. Yeah, I always believe they nip around the edges, James. I just don't think to be able to get these size movements together and get people to work together the way they have. Nah.
Well, there's been groups that are far more.
Look at other countries. They've done the exact same thing
because what everybody's claiming is Antifa now counts IWW members, I guess, and socialists. Anybody that protests fascist are now somehow Antifa. So
that violently protest.
Well, no, but see, we have to get together and decide what it is that we're talking about. Because the way I see it, Antifa is just a movement within a bunch of people that are willing to stand up, in whatever ways, and and then there's a fringe amongst them that are black bloc. But I think there was a
TBC. Why isn't the media talking about them then?
Why isn't it? Because if you're up against, this is the thing. There's no moral equivalency here, guys. You can't make a moral equivalency.
This isn't a moral issue at all.
Yeah, no, wait. There is a moral equivalency here. You're making. You're saying bad Antifa, good Nazis, because
no. That's
because
what you're making.
That's not what we're saying.
No one's saying good Nazis, dude.
I've seen a bunch of videos of Nazis beating on people. I've seen.
Hell yeah. Romper stompers have been running around for decades. We know that they will stomp the shit out of people.
Yeah,
So
But you are right that you are
somehow
right.
I'm trying to figure it out. Where does this line between self-defense that we all talk about all the time, everybody carrying a gun? I mean, I'm trying to figure out when I can pull my gun, when I can't, when I can swing a stick, when I can't, because I mean, let's put it this way: this thing in Charlottesville was Nazis and KKK members, and they came into town and they were looking for fights, and there's just no doubt about that. They were looking for payback, and
Agreed, they were looking for a fight.
Well, you are right that they are trying to paint these groups with a broad brush. All the conservative groups are Nazis. All like the left are Antifa. I mean,
everybody belongs to these tiny, insignificant little fucking nutbags.
My point was that Heather Hare and the people that were hit were in the contingent of people that typically are not the violent, sorts. I know the IWW has a history, but not in modern day. The IWW members aren't big, battled out in the streets people. There ain't enough of them, that's why, for one reason, but that's one of the reasons.
Well, far more radical groups have been compromised than Antifa. The Black Panthers come to mind, like tons of environmental groups.
Well, my point is, I got no problem with arresting people, taking away these weapons. So, in Portland, they just took all those shields and stuff away from people.
Now why didn't they do that for anybody there? They let all the fucking crazy nutbag KKK white supremacists have weapons, and then those other people came with weapons, and they didn't do a fucking thing. They just let everything happen.
And I think there has to be that at some point during a public event, police have to have the ability to say, okay, we're going to have a no gun zone in these areas, because I'm sorry, there's just no good reason to be walking around with a pistol or a long gun in a group of people protesting. There's just too many chances for people to go off to have no reason to have a gun, but have a license and are perfectly legal, but
Virginia is an open carry state, though.
Well,
wait. One media. Do you copy? Over. Are you there? Over. One media.
You might have took a piss break.
Frankly, I prefer open carry to concealed carry. I've lived in an open carry state for years. I'd rather see someone if they have a gun.
Just wondering if he's okay. That's all.
Yeah, just hope his head didn't hit the ground first.
I just think there's some places, like I said, I think.
Did you see him fall on camera or something?
Yeah.
What's that?
Bars and churches, schools. I think there are places where guns shouldn't be. And I think protest is another one of them, because I don't think anybody but the police should have that. And a little leery of the police having it.
Did you guys say that Chuck passed out on camera?
I don't know.
He's not there anymore.
I thought he was tying his shoe for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was kind of a.
Maybe that guy
that was a good impression. Although he's dead. No,
he's in the back. He was in. I think that's the back of a pickup truck he's in. So I think he's just he probably slid out of the view of the camera.
That is a lawn chair.
That looks like Clown Royal.
I don't know.
There we go.
Yeah, I see something moving.
Yep. Nope. Yep. No.
Hello, Chuck.
Was he drunk?
Yeah,
I think he's drunk.
That's got to be better. That's got to be better than the way that Eric was.
He's sure trying to get up.
I need to see your license and registration, please.
Chuck, go to bed, brother.
Yeah, man.
Well, if we hear a thud, we know something bad happened. He hit the floor.
He's going to enjoy watching this tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I like some of the shit he's saying. I just
some of the shit he's
saying.
Well, it's good, man.
Oh, shit, he
he's
dropped
wrecking shit. Now he's wrecking his setup. Chuck.
It looked like he had heroin. Looked like he had heroin nods there for a second.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking there for a minute.
Hello?
No, maybe not.
Please give me your license and registration and proof of insurance, license and registration and proof.
Sir, step out of the vehicle.
Please step out of the vehicle.
We out of this one. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm driving a lefty iPod right now.
Okay, buddy. It's all right, man.
In my garage, it's pretty intimidating.
Cool. Right.
You're gonna pull through, man.
I think you're nodding out, Media One, or One Media.
Media One.
Media One. This may be a good time to go to bed.
One Media Advocate.
No, don't say that. We get this.
Because I'm just me.
It's all right, buddy. We're here for you, man. It's a rough world. It's a rough world. I know.
Try not to nod out and fall on the concrete. Because you dropped
I
something.
didn't nod out. There were vehicle movements that.
I was just making sure you didn't. We didn't want you falling on the floor, man. Falling on the floor.
We thought you fell asleep there.
Yeah.
Next time.
All right, so back to what I was saying. It's real simple. I do believe that the media, if they steer what they're throwing out and spewing, they can exploit towards whatever their agenda is. That's what I'm saying, which has been done.
Yep, and we need to break them up. If we can break them up, like, we can decrease that effect.
Yeah, for sure. I just can't wait till I want to see what fucking Dana Rohrbacher comes back with from. I really hope that fucking HA gets his Christmas present early this year, because that guy's been working his ass off. You know, almost to the point to where it's annoying.
No, I'm not annoyed. I like HA.
No, I love the guy, but it's just he does it like like today it was like 5, 6 videos. I mean, I personally would just wait until everything's out and then just hit you with bullet points. That's just me, though.
HA's a fighter. Speaking of like the recent developments in alternative media, I think we are seeing a type of coup happen. First, we have Katzenberg and Co. investing $20 million into alternative media.
Yeah.
TYT specifically. And now we have like another level of demonetization going on.
I'm the most popular guy in the world.
Hey, babe, you're falling asleep. You should turn off this. Who is this guy? Who is this fucking guy?
Well, he's just.
Hey, everybody. Hey there.
He's just visiting. He's fine. Sorry.
We heard him drop something.
He doesn't have any.
Is he looking at us right now?
Yeah. Eric.
Yeah.
Eric.
Eric.
Now.
This is bad.
Eric. Now.
Okay.
Eric. Now.
Let's click off the computer because this is.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, bro. I'm just saying.
He needs to go to sleep.
We don't want to see anything weird or strange happening. You know what I mean?
So, like, we're seeing like another stage. Now they rolled out the first stage of this project a while ago when they started to demonetize, and they changed their terms of use policy. They were banning people, like shutting down their videos and stuff. But now we're seeing another rollout of it with another influx of cash and another round of like demonetization and another round of terms. So
have you also seen? Go ahead.
I think we're seeing, this I think we're seeing this happen in real time, and I don't think all of their steps are complete yet.
Have you noticed the YouTube notification system isn't working? It's basically preventing people from talking to each other.
You're right. It's not working. It's not working well at all anymore.
It's not giving any notifications.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or any comments when you're talking to somebody or anything like that?
Yeah, I've noticed
I've been getting my YouTube notifications.
For videos or for comments?
2 out of like 12.
For videos or for comments? I was referring to the comment system.
Oh hell, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
It's like trying to shut down discussion.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, anyways, like I think that their wedge is they're using TYT, and what they're doing is they're going to try to use TYT to pretty much control alternative media. They're dumping so much money into it. They're shutting everything else down. Like we have like as a group we have issues with Tim, but like what happened with him was unfair, and what's been happening to some of these other people is extremely unfair, and they're being shut out. They're being prevented from continuing what they've been doing, and pretty soon there's going to be a limited number of alternative media outlets out there with a lot of cash,
right?
Tons of cash, and everyone else is going to be shut out for one reason or another.
Yeah, at that point they aren't alternative media.
Yeah.
Right. That is absolutely right.
I think what Garden was saying, I fully agree, is at a certain point, I posted a video of the Federal Reserve and the money and how it moves and all this other stuff. There's just a fucking, it's never ending amount. So if you want to bribe somebody, if you want to collude somebody, if you want to get them, if you want a little extortion or whatever, however you want to do it, they have the power to do it. But here's the thing. If you don't have grounded ethical, moral values in what you're trying to preach, and it's tough, you're going to get the offer. Some people will take I just think that a lot of people
the devil's going to offer you that deal.
Yeah. So the price will be taken, and if you don't take it, the deal, they'll find a way to shut you fucking down.
Yeah, it's the carrot or the stick.
Yeah, if they needed to, yes, exactly. If they really needed to stop this and others, we're not the only people that are doing this. I mean, this particular process is awesome compared to what everybody else is doing, but they would fucking shut down YouTube if they had to. They would shut down Facebook if they absolutely had to. I guarantee that would happen.
Well, there's going to be new stuff that comes out anyway, and we might as well just migrate to that. I mean, Minds is one place. I haven't signed up.
No, where are you migrating to? Are you migrating into a slaughterhouse?
Well, we're migrating to Ring Central as we speak. Like, we're not hosting this. Like,
No, I'm just saying the YouTube thing. Like, what guarantees that any of those services, like let's say they already go out and they attack YouTube, and then they move everybody into the slaughterhouse.
There isn't. What we have to do, and I think I've said this before, is try maybe to diversify. I mean, the more sites that we're on, the more connected we are. The longer this will be able to continue because we're not just pigeonholed into YouTube. You know what I'm saying? The more sites
I like Hard Bastard's multi-streaming system he's using.
Yeah, he does.
We
That's
can
good.
apply that to Ring Central.
Yeah,
that would be fucking epic.
Hard Bastard, guys.
Eben.
That's a great concept.
Eben.
Well,
wink.
I'm going to bed, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, Brad.
All right, have a good night, Brad. Take care.
Dude, that was fun, though, right? Was that fun or what? Was that fun? At a certain point, I'm like, it was funny, and then it just got dangerous.
It just got bad. Yeah.
But it's a good thing Mom showed up.
Yes.
Or somebody, whoever it was. See you, Brad.
Yeah, he was
Bye,
pretty
Brad.
drunk, it looked like. He was good at first, but then he started nodding off as it went on.
Yeah, that white cup, I don't know what was in that white cup, but I'll tell you. You know what happened is after he took that bong toke, it was right after
I was about to say, he took a hit off.
Yeah,
He
Right
took
after
it
you
off
did
a
that
pipe.
BT.
That's why I said it looks like you might have a heroin nods. That's why I was worried, man. Because I just thought, oh, he's just taking a hit of herb, and then wait a second. Who knows? You know, in this world, I can't be so sure.
On who's
Could be
taking
meth.
what?
You never know.
Yeah, but
was
you know,
acting
it looked like herb to me. He was.
I didn't see it. I don't know. I'm just saying stuff that can be put into pipe.
But that's the thing, man. You don't mix herb and you know.
I can't
Yeah,
mix
he
herb
was
and
acting
dirt.
like somebody I see riding the L.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't. You know, back when
I want him to come back, though. I like what he's saying. I just hope that he comes back a little sober, because he did have some pretty good points.
Or at least come back when he starts drinking, not at the end.
Yeah, come back in the beginning, not in the middle or the end.
Well, that's the thing. I'd like to get some people with more right-leaning views into this discussion, people that were reasonable, you know. And I think that's what he kind of did there. He challenged some of.
He did, but he couldn't because I think most of them are drunk anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Just curious, what right-leaning views did he express? I didn't catch it.
Well, he was trying to defend conservatism in a couple of ways.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but what policies? I don't care about what the hell conservatism is. What policies?
Well, he was wasted. I don't think he was advocating any specific.
No, he wasn't too
policy.
specific about it. He wasn't doing a good job, Kevin. He wasn't really doing a good job, but he was trying.
And he
Well,
had
the
some.
whole
And he
idea
had
of
some.
how the solar makes sense on pricing and all that. That's reasonable. I mean, that makes sense. It's going to cost less in the long term to do renewables than it does to do oil or coal or anything else.
Well, if you look
Plus,
back,
just better.
he did mention that that conservatives were they had climate control, or they understood climate control more, or climate change. Or
He was saying that they were at the forefront of promoting renewable energy, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, but they're doing it not because of climate change or anything like that, which I don't really care. They're doing it because the financial side of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't agree with his overall point, but it still was worth debating or discussing.
ISIS are liberals, so that one was the one that really
that got broken for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying all of his points were golden.
And you got to think, conservative and liberal mean completely different things in different countries.
That's true.
I mean, the meanings of words change radically when you go to different places.
That's true.
Okay. I'm sure that we weren't talking about the finer nuances.
I was just saying that.
We weren't talking about the finer nuances of Pashtun versus Arabic and how it affects the ISIS movement. I think we were talking about them being liberals like Hillary Clinton, you know. I mean, I know.
Well, if they're liberals,
I know she armed them, everything else, you know, whatever. But you know,
hey, I give a thumbs up for trying. He was trying. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude was from California.
I'm hip with it. Like you say, I hope he comes back when he's starting, so that it's easier to talk.
Hey, has anybody heard of trustvote.org?
Yes.
Did anyone receive an email from them?
Yep.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I mentioned it yesterday.
Oh, okay, because they have something coming up September 1st with Buy for Takers.
Fit Rakis, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah. Because I think he got the lawsuit up there in Ohio.
It's the same person Debbie did a lot of interviews with during the primary elections.
Yeah, and I think...
Debbie Lusignan.
Yeah, I don't know if she interviewed Cliff Aronbeck, because he's good, too.
I mean, Bob's... the amount of information that he's accumulated into a single area is pretty impressive.
I was following them through the primary.
But the one thing I didn't like, the one thing I didn't like when I read that email though, is that if you read it, you notice he said, and foreign interference, which, you know, I don't mitigate the possibility of it, but, you know, I don't know. Because, yeah, I guess it's fair for him to say that because he's covering all of his bases for the election-wise.
Well, actually, when people doing this, they putting their lives in line, so they have to put that in there. Yeah,
Well, normally anybody that investigates government corruption normally ends up dead. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yeah. It went all the way back to Vince Foster. I was listening to Mike Rivera one night, and he was talking about the demonetizing of the YouTube, and he said Google has AI, these robots doing the demonetizing, picking what videos to take down, and it really doesn't know what they're doing. They're not hearing.
I can almost guarantee you there's a YouTube blacklist.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that to some degree it's apolitical. It's not as political as people think it is. Hey, Stevie.
Hey, Stevie.
I think a lot of it is just about demonetize as many videos as we can, like, because for every video we demonetize, we cash less. You know, we have to send out one less check. I think there's a lot of that involved.
Yeah, it's basically people trying to get people to make content. You know, they're trying to suck all the, or YouTube and Google is trying to suck all the money out of content creators. Basically, it's like you can only, like, you look at some of the bigger people. They haven't, like, bigger people that don't talk about any issues that really matter at all. They're not demonetized. They just talk about gibberish.
That's why I don't fucking watch them.
Well, you also see alternative commentators and mainstream commentators have almost identical headlines or identical subject matters.
Interesting, isn't it?
One will get demonetized and one won't. You know, I guess, like, it's either have a decent attorney on retainer or something, or get demonetized, because that's the only thing that, you know.
Well, it's the same thing for the court system, except for they're applying it here. It's basically nobody has enough money to fight the system, basically. So, we'll just raise the price here and we can screw all these people. And then we can push our narrative uninterrupted and unimpeded.
And the laws around, like, you know, this kind of technology are still so sketchy and still kind of being drafted, and legislators don't understand the technology or whatever. And, you know, it's... and the other thing is, I don't buy into the argument, well, it's a private company, so it can do whatever it wants.
No, yeah, that's bullshit. A private company can't fucking violate the goddamn Constitution. I mean, the government's fucking violating it.
Like an electricity company, for example, can't just shut down power to a region because it feels like it. Okay, these communication systems have become vital to our operation as a society.
Yeah, they're a backbone of the infrastructure.
Or anything, but a lot of these things. Okay, and we need to classify them as utilities.
Well, you got to be careful about classifying things as utilities, because look at the monopolies. Those are private, or look at the, like, power companies. These are private companies that have been classified as utilities, and look how they fuck people. They use the government utility bullshit as a cover for them. When you start declaring things a utility, you have to be incredibly specific on how you exactly mean to interpret that.
Well, we need to, you know, I'm not saying we apply exactly the same laws we would to, like, a power company, but we need to develop a system of laws based around the new kinds of communications technologies we have. And they need to be realistic in the sense that, you know, we need to acknowledge the effect they play on our society and the importance that they play.
When is our government ever realistic?
We just can't leave them in the hands of profiteers. It's a bad idea. We need to enforce, again, antitrust laws.
Yeah. They're still on the books. They've just been completely ignoring them.
Well, and some of them have been subverted through things like the Telecommunications Act and whatever, but we can change that.
There's no
Well, I
reason
think the
that
Constitution is just being trampled over. Obama started that when he removed habeas corpus.
He never removed it. He just made a loophole for it.
Yeah, basically. He basically put it
It's basically converting a right into a privilege.
Yeah, it's basically because he put it in place, and no Republican's ever going to drop that little ditty. You know, it sets a precedent, and then the guy that has to you know, undo it looks like he's undoing some huge deal, but he's only really would be like undoing like whatever the last two presidents or three.
Anybody's sorry.
You know.
Anybody see that Jimmy Dore episode that he did that quick thing on the cop that literally stole marijuana from people, arrested them, put them in jail, and then took the marijuana and sold it for his own personal profit, and all he got was community service?
What? That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I mean, the weed should never be illegal in the fucking first place, but just the fact, okay, this is a cop that's literally taking criminal actions.
What state was this?
Hey, he should be fucking held.
I believe that was in California.
California.
Oh,
Yeah,
California? When it's fucking legal? That's fucking...
Now think about it. One cop got caught. How many thousand didn't?
Well, and not only that, he got caught because he was dealing with pot. We're not even counting how much they get in cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just busted him with what they busted him with. We don't know the history. What Jimmy didn't take from that was his
civil asset forfeiture.
His kids were there at the photo shoot after he was given the probation, which means that he probably knew that he wasn't going to get fucked. You guys understand that? I mean, why would you bring your kids knowing that you're going to get convicted or sent to jail?
The other thing is like if you get caught like snipping pot off of like citizens like that, it means you're getting lazy. And if you're getting lazy, it means that you're getting used to it. You're getting used to taking cash and shit off of citizens. You know, that's what it indicates. Yep, he got lazy.
I believe
careless.
they were a drug dealer before they became a cop.
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
That's what I believe.
They probably were a drug dealer and became a cop so they could be a better drug dealer.
Or he just saw the money and said, you know what, I need to take my family to Tahiti, or I need to get a Lamborghini, you know, before I kill some black people or some brown people.
Dude, have you ever seen the way the homes and cars cops drive around in like
Oh,
Florida?
they drive some very beautiful vehicles.
Gee, how can they afford those?
Yeah, my younger son, he went to school with a kid that his dad was a cop, and he would, like 3 days a week, he would have different cars. I mean, it's possible, but it's, I don't know, kind of crazy.
Civil forfeiture laws in like Florida are insane. So
those laws are nationwide.
Yeah, but what I mean is even the state itself makes an insane amount of money because they did all the cocaine, because they did all the cocaine trade in the early days. So they still have enough of that there that it still pays the bill. You know,
the craziest example of that I've ever seen was when I was in college. I had a buddy, and his dad worked for the DEA or some related agency. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a DEA related agency, and he spent like 6 months out of the year in Bolivia, right? And this kid had like everything he wanted. You should have seen the condo that they had. I mean, that dad was pulling in over $500,000 a year. He had to have been. I don't think he was getting that off of like, you know,
Yeah, he was getting that off of the people he flipped upside down and shook the money out of.
Well, I don't.
Well,
Who knows? Like, it was crazy though. He's like, yeah, my dad works down in Bolivia. I'm like,
yeah, and sometimes it isn't the shaking. Sometimes it's merely just the just the offers. All it took to get him to take that money. So, you know, and in Bolivia, yeah, good. Them sons of bitches in Bolivia, what's his face? Can never remember his name. Shit. He kicked him out. He kicked him out, the DEA out of there, because that's how they were militarizing. You know, they were militarizing the opposition forces to, you know, whatever seemed like the best way to get it. That way it would be the leftist government there, but they're, you know, in if they need them for the rightist government in Colombia, suddenly the DEA has a huge amount of money they can give Colombia for helicopters and, you know, things that suddenly turn into gunships with just a little bit of work and, you know.
yeah, some flatbed Toyotas. Like a bunch of them. Sent like 8,000 of them down there. They seem to like doing that, and then they put like a 50 caliber machine gun on the back of them.
Well, and there's probably enough of them around to get parts for. You know, you can always pull parts off of old ones because there's a lot around. You know,
Yeah,
where you can.
It's not like that revolution that was going down in South America for a while there. It was all good. But like it was all right. We should have like worked with those governments instead of trying to subvert and crush them. You know?
Well,
and that's what we did. We subverted them. Like and now look at the situation down there.
But no, we got to have an enemy. If we don't have an enemy, we don't. There's no profit in. There's no profit in peace.
We got to control the hemisphere, all of it.
Yeah.
We got to have a pipeline that can stretch from one end of the hemisphere to the other.
Yeah. And I bet they don't think that. Go ahead, Cheryl. Sorry.
I hear something else talking in the background. I don't hear it now. Well, did anybody ever watch that movie American Gangster?
Yeah.
Nah.
No.
It was a true story about Bumpy Johnson in New York. He was a big time drug dealer, and he was shipping drugs from overseas. I think from over in I forgot one country. It was a really good movie. Denzel Washington played in it.
Yep, I remember seeing
That's
that.
what he wanted. He wanted Oscar for that. He should have won for playing Malcolm X, but they let him win an Oscar for playing a gangster. But anyway, it was a good movie, and it showed how he brought it on planes with the dead soldiers' bodies. And I'm like, that's what the CIA be doing.
Yep, and then they put it right in the middle of the city. They took all that crap and they shoved it in the middle of the city. And now look at it.
Yeah, and they locked him up.
So Evo Morales was the name of the Bolivian guy that threw him out of the country. He was actually the first indigenous leader in Bolivia for like ever, you know, and his story is pretty interesting. It all started over water. They took all the water rights and they couldn't take rainwater out of it, and that helped the whole situation.
So here's a story. When I was a kid, on the island of Kauai, we were smoking some herb and we ran out. So we went to my buddy's brother's house. You know, we're like 15, 16 or something like that. 7, I don't know. And so we showed up and he threw this big fat bud on the table, on the glass table, and it was about, 10, 12 inches, just a fucking, bud, man. And it's just, the buds in Hawaii, they don't bounce, they just stick. They just stuck to the table. And it's dry, by the way. So I'm like, fuck, damn, that's huge, And then he goes, hey, if you guys need more, just go in the back and get some. So my buddy got up real quick. He goes, come on. So we opened the window, the sliding glass door. It's dark. It's at night. And he just like disappears all of a sudden. Just disappeared into the sliding glass window. I'm like, whoa. I was kind of stoned already. So I immediately follow him. And there's just these like 14, 15-foot fucking trees, buds, just in his entire backyard. And we're just breaking up buds. So we got our shit and stuff. And then like 2 days later, we go back because we ran out. Right? So we go back and we go, and he goes, I got to show you guys something. And we go in the back, and he goes, I got raided by Uncle, what's his name? I don't know what the guy's name, but his own uncle or somebody had to come and take all his pot. But he pointed in the corner, and they left him like an 8 by 8 foot area of pot for himself. They raided him, but then they left him a little piece.
They left him a brick, basically?
Yeah, they left him a brick, pretty much, yeah. It was fucking... So fuck, man. I was like, yeah. He goes, I'll just go some more. Not a big deal, but it's just the way it is. I forgot the name of the SWAT unit that used to do it, but it was a big thing back in those days. So what we're talking about when there's colluding and there's back room deals and all this shit, not just in Congress, but I mean fucking just everywhere, man. It's just it's just
the government's corrupt as hell.
Yeah, everything.
On all levels.
Yeah, on every kind of level.
It's like whenever somebody says the corrupt government of Mexico and how corrupt everybody. And I mean, they have a
They
level.
probably are, but
It is a little, it's a little deeper, a little tougher, but still, I mean, it's to say like we're on some able to stand on some mountaintop and go,
righteousness. Yeah.
Corruption, it's like us whenever we're talking about human rights abuses of the Cuban government, on a fucking island that we're torturing people on and holding people without charges.
Built a whole legal prison on it.
Yeah, and so I mean, I find it a little hard to sort of take our word for it anymore on some of these things.
You shouldn't believe the government.
I do know one thing. I guess back in the day they used to do like they had like agreements amongst all like the growers in oh hell spells. Can't think of it now. California. I can't think of it now. The golden triangle or the green triangle.
By Humboldt County and all that.
Humboldt, thank you, Humboldt. Yes, and those people used to have like they'd keep their plots down to a certain number to keep the feds off everybody's ass. It was like if the one person got greedy, then everybody would get caught, kind of thing, and it was better just to not be greedy and take
compartmentalized growing, where it's spread out over a larger area and more difficult.
Well, and where everybody kind of had
more difficult to catch, not more difficult to do.
Yeah, well, it just did formal agreements that they wouldn't draw any more attention than they had to.
It's like the same reason you do pass-offs. Like, let's say, you have some piece of information, you have somebody that gave it to you, and you're giving it to somebody else. Well, the reason you do that is because if you get busted, they can only compromise two ends of it if you're tortured, and somehow the information gets out. They have to You only compromise those two people, and then they got to find those two people, and then do it all over again and all over again and all over again. So it makes it incredibly difficult and slows the whole entire process down. Versus if everybody knows the whole line of everything. Is that where you're getting at? TBC?
Well, I'm sorry.
Never mind.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. I was spacing the hell
One
out.
media. One media. Hello, one media.
Oh,
is
no,
he back?
no.
No.
No. Trust me, I was in a nice place for just a second there. So
We're going to start calling you One Media, dude.
No, everybody has their one media moment.
Well, I'm still of the opinion we get our pirate boat together. I'm still rooting for that one, guys. Our massive pirate ship.
Yard.
Yeah, in about 20 or 30 years, we're going to have more ocean to sail around.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. We'll be living like that, you know.
Water World, Water World. That was the fucking stupidest movie ever.
It was funny, though.
It was funny.
I don't know, man. It's not like I particularly enjoyed Waterworld. I mean, it was all right. But what I don't get is why everyone hates it so much. Everyone hates Kevin Costner.
I know.
Yeah.
I think the guy's a great actor.
It wasn't like the most horrible movie that I'd ever seen in my life. It wasn't worth that. I think what it was it was supposed to be a big budget, like blow everybody's socks out of their water, and it didn't, you know. Blow everybody's socks out of the water. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to pun there.
It got boring at some parts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a summer blockbuster movie. It was kind of a neat, you know, post-apocalyptic world movie in and of itself, you know.
Didn't that guy grow gills in that movie? Or didn't he have gills or something?
Yes, he did.
Oh, hell, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was dumb.
It was Fishman. Oh my God!
Yeah.
It was Aquaman.
God. Yeah, I forgot he was mutant. He was the mutant fish dude. Yeah.
The basic concept was cool, like, you know, floating around on the ocean and whatever. But I guess I haven't seen it in a while. I forgot that he was some kind of mutant or whatever. That was the point of the movie, basically.
Well, you know, I mean, I like the idea of some of these. I like the idea of. I saw just a little blurb of oh shoot, the guy that does Family Guy and all this. Now I can't think of his name. He does Family Guy and
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, thanks. He was talking about how taking sort of sci-fi in a more positive sort of view of the future is a good thing. You know, I think it is. I think sci-fi that's built towards a positive future sort of sets in our mind the idea that we don't have to live with an apocalypse if we don't want to. You know, if we start trying to use technology and live like, you know, these really cool space people of the future, we can, you know.
Well, he's got his new movie upcoming, the Orville. You guys seen some of the clips of that?
Nope.
Yeah, I saw that's what he was doing. I saw just a short clip of him or part of an interview, and I, you know, like just like it was.
I kind of really don't watch many movies.
It's he's what he's doing. It's a mockery of Star Trek.
It's like a TV show he's gonna do.
I like the mockery of Star Wars better. Spaceballs. God, I wish they had a number 2 of that.
The best one is Chad Vader. That's like the greatest.
Oh, Chad Vader's groovy.
I
mean, if you guys watch it, it's fucking classic.
I like the Family Guy one.
You know what my favorite line
from those pictures? Did anybody ever see that? What was it?
Yeah.
What would the Tim the Handyman show or whatever?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah,
that's
there it is.
exactly
There's
what
a
I
picture
was
from
thinking.
it. There's a picture from it. Yeah.
To infinity, or you didn't say to infinity.
Yeah.
I can't remember. He had the.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
That was a great movie. I love that movie.
That was fucking retarded, but it was funny.
It was funny.
Oh, and it was it and
Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
Okay.
oh,
You know what my favorite line from Spaceballs was?
Ludicrous speed.
That one was a good one, but
Comb the desert. And they
in
literally
the
do
future,
it.
nothing works.
Yeah, even
No, out of order. Fuck. Even in the future, nothing works.
No, I like it. I like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the number for the fucking air shield. That's like what idiots put on their luggage. Tells the secretary, change the combination on my luggage.
That one was pretty good too.
Dark helmet.
Yeah. Darth helmet. Yeah, that was.
No, it's dark helmet. Dark.
I
But
think
anyway.
it was funny when he was drinking coffee through the front of it.
Yeah.
Then he went and spit it out because it was too hot.
Or when their Schwartzes got twisted, and he couldn't get it up. It was like a dick joke. Oh God.
No,
Hey,
it
that's
was
Schwartz with you.
it was the size. And I've seen the movie like fuck.
Your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Yes.
Oh God.
Has anyone seen the movie Money Monster?
I don't even know what that is.
Sorry.
That was a good movie. It was with Julia Roberts and George Clooney. George Clooney played like one of them guys on CNBC have a talk show about
Mr.
stocks
Rental.
and stuff. And this one guy, his girlfriend was pregnant and about to have a baby, and he invested some money in stock. And it fell, and he lost all the money. He went to that TV station and held them hostage. It was really good.
Yeah. Brendan Fraser was in that? No? No,
That was a good damn movie. I'm like, man, somebody might do that for real.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Anyway, well, I have what's called, I'm not going to say the entire thing, but it's Go Movies. It's all I'm saying is that you can see movies that are pretty recent.
So in other words, bootlegging.
That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, so the movie we were trying to remember the name of was Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest.
And Alan Rickman played the like alien dude, and his thing was Alexander Dane. His thing was by grab Thor's hammer by the sons of Warvan. You shall be avenged.
You shall
That
be
was-
avenged.
Yeah. But everybody made it, the actor that played it in the movie made Alan Rickman's character say that damn thing, and he was driven crazy by it.
Fucking hated it.
Well, since we're on the topic, and Eric, you're on. Like, how many of you guys have seen Serial Mom?
Oh,
That movie is hilarious. It's hilarious.
Nope.
Great. Hold on.
Buckle up, Scotty.
Buckle up, Scotty.
All right, it's basically about a suburban housewife who's insane, and no one knows it.
I'll get you.
Like, she's smart and she gets away with shit, but eventually she really starts losing it and starts killing people like every day.
That's Catherine. Yeah, that's what's her name?
Yeah, it's Romancing
Kathleen
Stone.
Turner.
Yeah.
Kathleen Turner. Yeah, that is
That's
a good
what-
movie.
That's what
I was just
checking out.
It's such a great movie. I've watched that so many times. So many fucking times.
The best part is at the end where Suzanne Summers like tries to get her to take that picture and she turns on her. People start screaming because she just bashed someone to death in the phone booth. Like she
Don't
couldn't
wear
stop
white
herself from
after
killing for 5 minutes.
Don't wear white after Labor Day.
Yep, always some insane reason. And then she had her allies in the town. People who like those garbage men who backed her up.
There was a
The part in court was like the best. I was like, and
Yeah.
after watching the movie, like,
When you're buddies with the people at the dump and the pig farmers, that is a little suspicious, isn't it?
It's worth checking out if you haven't seen it.
It isn't on net. I just checked. Is it on net? It isn't on Netflix or Amazon.
You know what was the best part? The detective, when in the court. Yes, the detective where he like sifted through the garbage. Then the garbage man found like a dirty magazine. I'm trying to think what was the dirty magazine's name.
It was like chicks with dicks. That's what it was. Like they were rooting around in her garbage, the cops looking for evidence, and they found all kinds of serial killer shit, right? Like magazines and photos of mutilated people, and they're like, "Is this yours, Mrs. Sutphin?" She's like, "No, they're my son Chips." And like, and she has her garbage men allies who are almost as insane as her, really, when you think about it. They want to cut someone's throat over not recycling.
Well, if you worked at a landfill and saw the shit they dump in there personally, you might have some change of heart feelings about it too.
Yeah, that was a great movie. Great movie.
There's another one that's based on a true story. Some mom that like tried to off the.
Oh my God! I see Kermit the Frog.
The competitors for their what in the hell was it?
Speaking of which, hold on a second.
Cheerleading deal.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I don't remember what the name of it is though.
What's the premise of the movie?
Oh, it's like the mom tries to get rid of all the other cheerleaders or something. I can't remember what exactly happened in it, but it was a bizarre movie. But it was based on a true story.
Crazy.
Mommy?
I hate when they say based on a true story because, I mean, they can say a lot of shit's based on a true story and like 95% of it's complete fiction.
Well, no, that was in the news, though, about that. I remember that story. That woman was crazy.
I said 95%, not all of it.
Right, yeah, but that really was a true story.
Now, there was Mommy and Mommy 2 with Patty McCormick, who played, what's her name, Rhoda in The Bad Seed. And they didn't give the character a name, so you could assume it was the same character. And she was going around killing, like, her kids' rivals and stuff.
What was the name of it?
Mommy. I can't get it down, but I have a Chucky doll.
Mommy.
Let
me look it up.
Ha ha ha. I liked Bride of Chucky. That was really good.
500,000, James?
Yeah.
I mean, is that counting all genres of film?
It says feature,
all genres.
cinema, currently anything over 40 minutes, I believe. So, I mean, we got a lot to choose from.
Well, it used to be a movie slot was 2 hours, but it would have cartoons, news, and other pre-features and, the coming events. So the real movies used to be really short. It wasn't until, recently, the last 30 or 40 years, that all the movies tended to be, try to go for 120 minutes.
Jeez.
They need intermission. They need every movie. I mean, when you have a 2.5 hour fucking movie.
Yeah, people need piss breaks.
Yeah, you're like, go get some popcorn. No, you go get some. No, I'm watching. No, go get some popcorn.
That's why I don't go to the movie theaters.
Yeah, I mean that's like my
Most Hollywood
VHS.
sucks these days.
My VHS version of Kelly's Heroes still has all the intermission music. You know, I mean, yeah, we used to have intermissions during movies or in between. You know, they'd have a double feature and you could have them in between, but they were never long movies like they do now. Some of these movies are torturous, especially, like I say, you know, I found out about my prostate earlier than most people, so trust me, it becomes an issue with a 3-hour-long fucking movie and, you know, popcorn.
No pause button.
Popcorn, yeah, that's why, man. I tell you honestly, unless it's like Star Wars or something, I know it's going to be like super visual, or some kind of event, like if it was some new Star.
Delicious and healthy.
Yes. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's
all buy this overpriced shit.
Let's all go to the lobby.
They made a parody version.
Get ourselves some snacks or something.
Yeah.
I remember that.
That was a good.
They
little
made a
skit.
parody version on Aqua Teen Hunger Force : movie films for theaters. Yes, that's the name of it. But whatchamacallit? It was a parody version of that, but you know, it was like pretty dirty, but it was pretty funny at the same time.
Well, if you like John Waters flicks, Eric, I think the other good one to check out is Female Troubles. Have you seen that one?
I've never seen it.
It's horrifying. Like, it takes a darker turn on, like, the usual John Waters themes. It's worth checking out.
Gotta try it sometime.
He makes a lot of good films. Some of them are a bit much for me. Like, I'm not really into musicals, but he does some good films for sure.
You know what musical I like the most? Book of Mormon.
I didn't see Book of Mormon.
I've never seen the musical, but the
Trey Parker and Matt Stone created it, and it was really fucking funny.
yeah, I've never seen the musical, but I've seen the South Park. It's brilliant.
They have like a sound. They have like a soundtrack to it, but it's really, really funny.
Probably my favorite is Jesus Christ Superstar. It's probably
That was good. That was good.
Gypsy. My favorite musical is Gypsy.
I'd have to say it would have to kind of be a tie between the producers, Sweeney Todd, or shit, what was the name of the other one? I can't remember the other one. But
Like, I like something funny though.
you're talking about musicals,
like on stage.
like musical movies, or like theater musicals. Like you physically go see.
You go out to the movie. You go out to a theater, sit down, watch a live performance.
Fiddler on the Roof.
Good one.
I like The Wiz.
I saw Little Little Shop of Horrors.
That's a good one. The Wiz was good. Was very well done.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
this was good.
in drama class, I was in Alice in Wonderland.
Oh,
Played play, but it was fun. I played as a cook.
there you have it. That's why Eric is such a great performer. He was in drama. Good job, buddy. So
I like fun and
play.
funny though.
I wish I got to see the play Les Miserables, because I had to read the book in high school. But that was a really good book, the story.
Yep, that's a great story. That might actually be my favorite.
all right, Oliver. I saw Oliver. That was a really good. I seen Fiddler on the Roof and Jesus Christ Superstar.
I
think
like
one or two more. That's about it. I'm not like a big theater buff.
Not on stage.
I like Fiddler on the Roof, man. It's the one that's kind of beat into my head. If I was a rich man,
The best
I love doing the dance with my kids when we were little. when they were little and we didn't have any money, and we would just be in the kitchen just dancing around waiting for the spaghetti to boil or whatever.
The best stage performance I ever saw, though, was a production of The Sound of Music. Like, I don't know, like, Sound of Music, pretty boring story, but, like, you really felt for these people by the time, like, it was over.
Oh, that was an epic movie. Nobody's saying like that chick. That chick had some great pipes.
Here's a good question for a movie. What's the worst ever movie that you wish you just could have passed out through, that you basically were forced into watching? What's the worst possible movie?
The Happening.
The Happening?
The
Happening. That was scary.
That was bad. That was so stupid.
Blair Witch, without a doubt.
Yeah, Blair Witch sucked.
Well, there's some films I wish I hadn't seen, but that doesn't mean that they're boring. Like Necromantic.
Like films so goddamn awful, you wish you would have blown your brains out. That's the kind of level of horrible.
Well, I don't ever want to see Necromantic 2 again. It's so graphic. I'm not even going to describe it here. But, like, it's basically the continuation of a story of this necrophile and his girlfriend.
Oh, God.
It's horrible. Necromantic 1 was bad enough.
Was the whole movie about necrophilia?
Well, okay, like, Necromantic 1, you've got this guy and his girlfriend. He works in a morgue. And
oh, God.
And, like, he's been stealing bodies, and he comes home and plays with them with his girlfriend. And this is, like, it was banned in America. It's an X-rated film.
I guess my point is there is like it's like having like strychnine in a glass of water. There is no or plutonium. There is no acceptable level that I'm going to accept. So it's sort of the same thing with the necrophilia.
Well, it's an X-rated film, and like it's beyond it. It's unbelievable. Anyways, like, he loses his job at the morgue, so his girlfriend leaves him. And, like, it just gets worse from there. And it's just one shock after another, and the director's just trying to make you sick with every scene. But it's extremely realistic. I mean, he had a lot of talent in his special effects department. And it's horrible.
Jesus
Unlike
Christ.
some people who post on 4chan.
Well, I like horror films, and I like horror films, especially international horror films. There's a lot of really good ones out there. And, I came across Jörg Buchheit, who is a director, and he's kind of well known. I'll check some of his films out. It's horrible.
Howard the Duck. Who remembers Howard the Duck? No, it's crappy.
Okay, Snark, elaborate on that.
I just saw the video.
Of what?
It's one I put in a link in the chat there, and they're asking entomologists to explain why these bugs are dancing in patterns. And earlier we had in the communication we mentioned transpermia, and I said, "What is this?" Sending bugs a DNA through space to make bugs here dance in patterns for sending messages. I have never seen this before, and I'm not enough of an anything to do with bugs that I could explain what's going on.
Alien letters, like, what is that supposed to mean?
The bugs are dancing. They're making different shapes, and then they change another shape. And we'll probably find out that it's a hoax, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, I mean, I just don't get the alien letters part, I guess. Like, they're dancing in patterns. Are people like some
they'll like line up, and they turn into a triangle, then they go into a circle, then they go into a line. That's spacing between several of them. They repeat patterns.
You sure it's not just the panel that they're on is electrified in certain areas?
I'm hoping that somebody replies with what really happened there.
I'm looking at them. I'm not sure if they're real bugs. Are they?
I don't know either.
Because look at their antennas. They just don't move when they're not activated or whatever. They don't make any movements until they're activated. They just sit dead still.
Yeah. It's quite a wild video. I don't know that we could play it without having a violation.
No, I don't want. We gotta be careful. I don't want to expose bugs on the. I don't think.
Well, I'll tell you one movie I watched that I hated, and this guy is
Let me
straight.
find out.
M. Night
Let me look at
Shyamalan. The movie Split.
I never even heard of it, and I don't even want to know about it.
Yeah, it was so corny. It's supposed to have been a horror movie. They showed the previews on TV all the time. People talking about it was going to be so good. That was a waste of my time watching that on Cody.
You know, it was.
I'm glad I don't go to the movies.
That was like.
I don't go to the movies because of that. Because you don't know. They may show the best part in the movie. Like my son went to see that new horror movie, and I saw that Annabelle, and I kept seeing the preview. I said, nope, that's not going to be good. About the doll. He went to see it. He said, no, it wasn't all that scary.
Yeah, I only saw the first Annabelle, and I thought it was lame.
All right, you guys gotta watch it. You guys gotta watch this. Sorry, it's not. It's on Facebook, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, because it's public. So watch this. Okay, watch.
What is that?
Oh, bullshit.
Let's just see.
The fuck is that?
Now, if you look at them, they don't seem to make any movements until they're activated. Like
and what? They look like magnets almost.
Look like walnut antennas.
No, I mean like they're kind of moving like something getting tugged by a magnet.
Yeah.
What is it?
I agree with that. They do look like they're moving along with a magnet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to be bugs, but they don't look very buggy.
No, they don't.
They're not bed bugs.
Pretty soon you'll be able to fit like 60,000 gigabytes in something that size, and they'll be flying all over the place watching you all the time.
But here's the thing: their antennae are facing.
You'll see people starting to bootleg EMPs.
That's a little odd. That's odd. That was interesting. I don't know.
Nork, what is it?
Apparently, it's supposed to be aliens put DNA, and now these bugs have this DNA, and they're dancing in these specific patterns to show a language from aliens.
Yeah, what they're saying is these little insects were filmed in Houston, Texas, and it has baffled NASA scientists and entomologists around the world as to what they are and what they are doing. It looks like they are trying to tell us something. That's all they're saying.
What specific breed of bug is this?
I do not know.
It's funny how they leave out all the details.
Wait.
And they only videotape it from above, directly above it. What about side shot? Yeah, what about under the table?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks completely like it looks like bullshit to me.
Yeah, it kind of looks bullshitish.
Well, I know one thing. My sister is really going through something right now, and I feel sorry for her. They telling her it's a psychological problem, but other people are going through it. And I researched it, and the CDC will not put it down as a disease. It's called Morgellons, and she lost all her hair. She said it feels like bugs is crawling through her skin, and she's pulling fibers out of her hair. She is bald now, and people say don't bother going to the doctors because they tell you to go to psychiatrist.
Yeah, they try to tell you it's all in your head.
Huh?
Yeah. When it comes to hospitals, I mean, they'll lie to people. They will.
They're incompetent, and it's like, I don't know if it's just like a cop thing, like where they're kind of just made to not care anymore after you've been there so long. But I mean, I've seen doctors Google stuff right in front of me. Like, I could go home and Google this. I came to the doctor for a degree and some insight, you know? Like, just the whole culture of doctors is really screwed up.
Well, the thing about it is, she sounds like she's bad enough that a psychiatrist certainly isn't going to hurt her any. I mean, you know, the idea that they can't sort of help to balance out people's brain chemistry a little bit when they're in trouble like that.
No, Broker, look up the disease.
Well, I mean, maybe
a lot of research. Yeah, I've seen people that have had it, and I mean, there's evidence that they won't classify it as something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it just sounds like something. It sounds like something that should be something they can treat, but you know, if they can't, they can't.
Well, if they want to say that it's psychological, why can't they should have to prove that, you know, show some kind of chemical, you know, insufficiency, or test the fibers or something, you know?
Yeah. That's the beauty. That's why they like to say
out there, and they just, okay, well, I went to college, and, you know, okay, but you're not using any of it, and you're not testing anything. So, I mean, if you're going to throw like a theory out there, you should verify it, and they don't do that at all.
Yeah, the thing with psychological is they can basically make anything up, or they can just brush anything under the rug with it and say, oh, it's all in your head, and we have no way to prove or verify any of it.
And I know my sister is not crazy at all. At all. And I don't know if it's even contagious because her daughter's getting it. Her hair is coming out now.
Sounds like somebody's getting poisoned from somewhere. It sounds like we just don't want to tell you we're poisoning you all. It's just like what Snurk said along before. Like, they've done covert sort of testing of the population with shit.
Well, they spray in the air with them chemtrails.
Well, that's never mind.
There's so much crap floating around our environment. Who knows? And people don't come off an assembly line. Like, they can have reactions to things that only a limited number of people are going to have reactions to. It would cost like tens of thousands of dollars to have your family tested properly, you know, which is ridiculous. They should, if something like that begins to happen to them, they should be able to just go into the doctor and be tested.
Yeah, because they used to do lupus like that, telling people before it was psychological, and then they found out it wasn't.
But if you're black, you should put some cream, maybe some whole milk in a small cup, and just dip your tongue in it, and then put it in the refrigerator for 2 days. If it turns pink, let me know.
Well, I have lupus, so.
No, do you have serratia?
Have who?
Serratia. That's what he said. I'm not. What exactly is that?
There was a strain of serratia that was accidentally released from an experiment, and it causes you to, when your saliva comes in contact with the nutrient base, causes it to grow a pink bacteria, and it was related to a lot of black neighborhoods.
Oh, that seems intentional.
Yep.
So you say get some milk in a cup and stick your tongue in it. And put it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, but it might not be related to what you have with the hair. But when you brought up the other things, I said, "Oh, that's something that maybe you want to look at."
So, what cities did these outbreaks occur in initially?
Heavily populated, poor black areas.
Correct.
Well, what specific cities?
Yeah, I believe it was either Milwaukee or Indiana, the first instance.
Oh, so I was right. Heavily populated, poor black areas? I was just guessing.
Well, they do that in all black areas. Lead poisoning for the water.
It was only supposed to happen in Boston originally, but they accidentally expanded it.
Accidentally. How does that happen?
Only supposed to happen?
Like it's Milwaukee to
Releasing
Boston.
things into the environment that can kill people is supposed to happen.
After the Manhattan Project, they wanted to know what the effect of the fallout was, and they decided to put it in the poor black neighborhoods by Boston, thinking that anything else would blow out to sea. And instead, it got distributed to St. Louis, Minneapolis, and some others.
Jesus.
So in other words, government human experimentation?
Yeah, that's not a secret.
And why shouldn't our government be all executed for doing this?
I don't even know if they're punished.
All I can say is they still keep the black people in slavery in a different way.
Well, just like we were talking about before, like where do you think all those body bags of heroin went? You know?
Yeah.
The largest chain of enslavement to the blacks is through the ministers of the black communities.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that point.
I mean,
maybe not the biggest, but
Obama has two sets of, he has two sets of accents. When he speaks to white people, he has one accent. When he speaks to black people, he speaks like a minister.
Yeah, but I wonder why that is.
Yeah, and he chastises them, which I don't like.
Right, but when he speaks to the black people, he speaks like a minister to control.
Yeah, minister, like he's chastising them, like he got control of them. Pull your pants up. You don't get nothing out of it. Like he went to, what was that, Howard University, to them graduates and talking to them. I mean, these are graduates. You talking to them like, you know, something you can't get nothing out of it. You can't talk about your skin color either.
And I find
go
that
out and do something. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I find that offensive because to me, we cannot work well as a society with the maximum efficiency until we can treat everybody like a citizen.
Yes.
And when you have a special accent to speak down to people, that is really offensive to me.
I agree with you, Snort.
And it's also the reason why I object to not having English as the first language. I personally think that everybody should have 3 or 4 languages by the time they get out of high school, but English must be one of them. And I've been in factories where the plant floor supervisors speak Spanish, and they only allow the hiring of people that speak Spanish. And everybody that works for them, they want anything, they have to go through their supervisor for permission. And he starts controlling their lives, not just at work, but at night and evenings. And I just despise that so much that I want to see everybody not have that chain around them. I want to, as on a factory floor, I want to be able to speak to anybody. When I would walk up to someone in Mexico in a factory and ask them questions in Spanish, you would just see red flares going up across the room. How dare I speak to a worker? Well, that is the way that I learn things because the person that's doing something is the person that knows the most about it.
Yep.
And I don't want to know what perfect is. When I ask somebody a question, I'm saying, what are you doing? I want to know what they think. I want to know what they think they've been told to do. I want to know what they think they've been made. Because oftentimes the worker hasn't got it wrong. They've been told to do it wrong. So, and when I'm looking for how do I look at a factory that's in severe trouble and say, okay, how did they get in trouble? Why aren't they making this correctly? And how do things are getting through that are endangering lives in other factories or vehicles or other objects? So unless I can speak to everybody, it's a problem.
Well, you might be a union organizer, then never know.
I've spoken to unions. In fact, I've often worked well with unions.
Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is, I mean, you know, when you're speaking Spanish to one of the workers, that suddenly sets off flares because you could be a union organizer.
Well, usually it's pretty much known that I'm who I am when I walk into a factory.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying, and it's true. I mean, it's true. When I worked on jobs where they had the engineers come out and talk to us for a few minutes, like about like how they were going to bring in the precast panels, how they were going to connect to the building and stuff, and they made no sense because there was no way to get into. Like they wanted us to adjust nuts and stuff that are like 2 feet in from the edge of the where the column is. So you only got like a 1 inch gap to fish something in there to work this thing, you know, or a 3 inch gap, however big the gap was. And there was no way to wrench it to do what they wanted to do.
That's why you got to get in early and talk. And you need to speak to the people that are going to be doing it and saying, okay. And what I would usually do, because a lot of times it would work with unions and something like that, I would start with like four 6-packs of pop and a box of donuts. And I'd say, we're going to have a meeting. Typically we have meetings in the other parts of the building. We have beverages and donuts. Does everybody here eat donuts, or would you like me to get some bagels? And you know, that would basically be the best way to kick off a meeting, and then go through, this is what we're thinking of doing, and hearing their responses. And we could usually plan ahead and cut all kinds of work out, saying, okay, are there any things here that would scare you? You know, am I asking you to do anything dangerous? You know, and you get all these things worked out ahead of time, not when you've got an emergency and you've got to make somebody go out and walk on a rope to get somewhere.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why it worked well, because they did it when the building was still in the ground. So the panels weren't built, nothing was going yet. Of course, had I known what they were going to do with to hang them, they would have plates of steel there, and they'd have them on the columns, wherever the columns were, or wherever there was a wall. They'd have a metal plate that would have big studs on it, Nelson studs. And you know, basically, if you ever see like iron on a highway job, it'll have Nelson studs sticking up. But you had to fish them through all the rebar, and that was a royal pain in the ass to do that. Had they actually got involved with the people that engineered the rebar, that have seen what they wanted wasn't going to work in no way, shape, or form. Because I'm up there trying to muscle. I'm trying to muscle like this isn't even overstating it. It's a 1 inch plate of steel with about, I don't know, I'm gonna say had 15 Nelson studs on it maybe, and it had or more. And it had, and it was like, I'm going to say it was 18 by 24. So and I was working alone on a lot of that, and trying to muscle one of them fuckers up into a cage, hanging off of it, trying to mount it in the rebar, so that when they brought in the forms and closed it up, it would work. Or because you couldn't. Thing was too heavy, you screwed a form, you'd rip the plywood right off the forms. We tried doing that.
Yeah, I have human models for my computer, and if I mock something out, I will actually use a human model to test out what is going to be in the, not just the design, but how it's going to be implemented. I don't think I should show anything up here, but in fact, it tells you where the shadows from the lights are and everything. We took one of the images that I made of a factory, and it was a factory modification, and it had these spools of wire in the factory, just like they were in real life, laying out there. And the bankers came out and saw that it had shadows in the drawing, and they saw shadows on the spools out in the factory. And they measured the shadows in the spool in the factory and compared them to my drawing. And they said they scale up. If your math is that correct, we're not going to check the rest.
Yeah, if
We're
your
not going to
shadow-
check the rest.
Deal.
They should check the rest. I don't care how good you are, Snork.
Well, this was only for 16 million.
Yeah.
My dad used to do stuff like what they call it, a quality production and quality or
Quality control, is that what you're saying?
maybe I can't remember what it was. It was production too. Anyhow, he used to do that with a stopwatch.
Oh yeah.
Motion studies. He would do all the motion studies of people in machine shops. And the thing was, he was a fucking bastard because he knew all the machine shop. He knew all the tools and how to run them. So he was an especially a bastard because the guys couldn't bullshit him. You know, he already knew the best, you know.
We quit using stopwatches.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We actually have tables.
That seems like some slave driver shit.
Oh yeah, we had tables that we could tell how long or how much time it would take for the 95% of the people to move their finger, open it, reach for something, close their finger, pick it up and grab it and put it to its place. And we could get pretty much over a day, if somebody was repeating that all day, we could pretty much get within 3/10,000ths of an hour of how much time it would take them for each of the steps. Whereas if we went out with a stopwatch, it takes days with a stopwatch to be able to get any kind of timing optional. And it's not good for your employee morale to see somebody just sitting there with a stopwatch staring at them all day and then moving to the next person and doing that for 3 days, you know. And
also he had to like ask them to change something in the midst of it. You know, if they were reaching with their right hand instead of reaching with their left. And the thing was, these guys got paid good. You know, this was back in the days when it wasn't a bad job. People got paid good money, and you know, it wasn't like they didn't run production so heavy that it was like destroying people's metacarpals and stuff. I mean, they would keep everything ran the way things ran. You know, and
like they do for people at Foxconn.
And the other thing too was guys know how to work to somebody watching them all the time. You watch me all the time, I'll get it down to where I can count it out so that I know how fast I'm going, so that I know how fast I can go. So I cut it back enough so that no matter what happens with their production numbers, unless they double the production numbers, I'm constantly in line with what they want, you know.
Does just a question, does anybody know here or what subsidiary Foxconn is of?
I'm not sure.
Well, I know who it is.
I just knew that they made Apple products.
They build Apple
No,
products.
Apple is the Foxconn is a subsidiary of Apple.
Okay. And soon to be a Wisconsin factory.
I don't think they're a subsidiary.
Yeah, that's going to be robbing from the state, literally.
Yeah, I know they're at least a supplier, but I don't know any other relationship past that.
Well, they're in for a rude awakening if Wisconsin vote changes and they get a pro-labor group in there, and all of a sudden...
We'll just put it this way. The amount of money they're pissing away to just give to Foxconn for golden parachutes, they could employ 60,000 people at 50 grand a year.
It says here they're Han High Precision Industry Company is the actual name.
Foxconn's just the English thing of it. I know.
Yeah,
it's a subsidiary of Apple, though.
No, they look like they are the lead. Now that doesn't mean they're not partially owned, and that partial could be a large percentage. In a lot of Asian companies that are huge, the ownership is actually a web of people. It's harder to actually know who owns an Asian company.
It's kind of funny how they do that intentionally, isn't it? It's like, we spread it out so much, you don't know who to go after anymore.
It's part of your hierarchy and everything, because they're partially government owned, probably.
It was the only way they could compete with the Japanese.
But you know, the thing about it is, I mean, I was just Warren, Wisconsin.
It's not competition when you're driving everybody into slave labor.
But I saw the same thing. They built chip factories in Vancouver, Washington, all around that area, and Portland and stuff, and you know, down in Beaverton, that area, and they could afford to do things like they built half of this gigantic plant. I mean, this plant, just the slab for it was, they had to have like a couple on-site mixing, like not the kind that fill the mixers, you know. So basically they're just taking trucks of raw materials and filling the trucks at the right mixture for them to shake up and bring out to the site. That's how they do concrete, you know. It's just a mixture of what your aggregate, your concrete or your cement, and you know what I mean, the different parts of it. And so they had to move in a couple to have them on site just to make it, because you would have to have a continuous floor, because the floor had to be big enough so that there'd be no movement. And I mean, it was amazing how much money was spent. But like halfway through it, the price for something changed, and so they just plasticed it in and stopped the building for a little while, you know. And these companies, you know, they can afford to do that. They can afford to fire a company up and run it for a little while, and then just stop running it, you know, empty it out.
Night Garden, though.
If they need to retool something, they'll retool the whole company and then bring back in people, you know. Night Garden.
Yeah, a lot of chip makers from Washington State and Oregon moved to Malaysia in the 80s.
I knew a guy that was an engineer that worked in like
what, to exploit slave labor?
The environmental laws.
So
Yeah,
to poison people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because all the chips are made of, like, each layer is made of some kind of funky ass bullshit that they put together, you know, and they cook it just the right way. And I mean, it's like amazing the amount of thought that goes into the process of making like one of those big things of chips, you know.
Yeah, think of the amount of waste those places make. And then just to sell it to somebody, so in a couple of months to a year, it gets thrown away and goes into a landfill. It's fucking ridiculous.
Here's the other thing about those things, though, is they're absolutely.
I think Snork had something to comment on that.
Oh, I was just gonna say they're absolutely positively freaking clean. They're clean rooms.
Well, they have to be.
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise you wouldn't be able to manufacture this stuff.
You have to have certification just to work there to do clean room work.
A lot of the waste the liquid waste would contain stuff that was so valuable that they actually would recover it. It's just the recovery chemicals tended to be nasty. So like there'd be high amounts of copper chloride, and they wanted to get the copper back. They didn't care about the chloride. So they'd have a lot of chlorine gassing off and stuff like that, which basically you turn into hydrochloric acid, I believe.
Great.
Well, that would be useful later. You use it to make other things, but the chemistry of making circuit boards and things like that has changed an awful lot since 1970. So the base chemicals and everything that used changed so much that you almost have to tour a facility to see what they're currently using. Because some still use ferric chloride to get the copper chloride or get the copper off, and then when you get onto the chip, if you're plating gold, you've got to put masks on. You need chemicals to get the masks off, and you need many layers of masks to do these things. So yeah, it's can be chemically pretty nasty making chips. And a lot of companies.
And in actuality, when you're getting into all the gear, you're doing that to work in a clean room anyhow. It's just another matter of another level of type of gear.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Snork. So, I mean, it's cumbersome. It's hot as hell, you know, because if it's fully encapsulating, it takes a hell of a lot out of you.
Well, if you don't want the people sweating, you don't have it be too hot. And when you start talking about chips, they're almost wearing spacesuits.
Yeah.
Is the last thing a nose hair can ruin 1,000 computer chips.
Well, I mean, they'd go in and work with full suits on sometimes, or with suits and masks, and like one guy was chewing gum, and that like freaked him out. You know, that he was chewing a piece of gum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but.
Do you hear about that congressman that went to go talk to Julian Assange?
I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Rohrbacher. He's a bit of a kook, so, you know, it's not like we're getting...
Who in our fucking government isn't insane?
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm going to get something, I mean, the thing about it is I would rather it be somebody that carries a little bit more, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like this guy comes back, even if it was true, he had everybody dead to rights. No, you know, half of people won't believe him because he's a nutball on other aspects. I mean, he's not like as crazy as some of them, but, you know.
Or maybe they're using the congressman to go talk to him to like some transdermal drug to kill him.
Well, I know I'd talk, if I was Assange, I'd talk that sumbitch through glass.
Yeah, at a fucking distance.
It'd be like prison, man. You could only talk through the telephone looking at me.
Yeah, something. I'd be fucking nervous as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, the United States has been trying to get his ass for like 10 years now.
And 2 armed Ecuadorian guards standing there above him just to make it extra.
Okay. Well, I gotta call it a night.
Night, Snork.
Good night.
Night, Shirley.
Everyone's going to call it a night. All right. Bye, everybody. Love y'all. Have a good night. You guys take care.
Bye.
Triggered.
Bye.